Inside the towering estate, Rest crumbles as the word hits. He's officially being stripped of his heir status, and his family name is getting torn away. This is the tale of a blockbuster novel finally getting its chance to come to. Ban turned into a full-blown manga. The kid steps up and blurts out, "I'm Rest dying." 9. But everything's different now. The way things used to be is slipping away since that name got ripped away from him. His whole face sags. He looks absolutely drained as he slowly processes the fact that it's the morning of his 18th birthday, and he's been kicked out of his own house like he's nothing. Rest trudges off with his chin tucked, eyes distant like he's wrestling a storm in his head, slipping. That little smirk crawls onto his face, and just like that, his whole vibe flips. He pumps his fists to the sky and screams for joy, finally breaking free from his family meaning, so he'll never have to inherit the Dini family legacy or get dragged into their non-stop drama. And honestly, he's so sick of all the annoying customs and etiquette that come with being a nuisance. It all traces back to the Dine family top-tier nobles who run the kingdom's power from the inside. But honestly, Rest didn't even fit in. He still had to power through every last rule and task. As he strides along, a voice suddenly blasts his name. He whips around, shocked to see Berg, his younger stepbrother, stood there like he'd been dropped into the scene. Then he finally realizes who it. Berg's face was all shades of worry as he demanded, "Why is Rest out here alone? Where are the servants?" The kid stares at the ground and blurts out that he's wrecked. He's Zuri. He couldn't stop his mom from doing this. He'd already sensed it. His stepmother was cooking up something sneaky behind his back, throwing herself into every last effort to make her son, Bergs, the next head of the family. But Rest just grins and shrugs it off, saying it's totally fine, because now he can finally break free from. After all that suffocating noble drama, Berg still looks like he's one breath away from snapping. Bergs won't shut up, obsessing over where the land Rest was given. He looked absolutely crushed, like his mother had just chosen the completely undeveloped Aldoba Island, as if it were nothing. Rest figures out that this is where he's supposed to be, and once he claims the moment as his new territory, Berg's just totally freaked out. He was shouting, like, "Tell me I heard that right." Meanwhile, the rest stayed calm, but he says he truly believed they'd toss him into his stepmother's homeland in Kyle territory because it's way out on the far edge of the frontier. Scratching his head, he wrestled with this choice like it was a puzzle he couldn't escape. That just proves she truly couldn't stand him. Bergs jumps in to help, saying he'll at least snag a ship and rally some crew to go with him. Rest beams and tells him, "I really appreciate you pulling out all the stops for that kid." Berg just stood there, staring like the pain of everything was still crushing him from the inside. A small, real smile blooms on his face as he locks eyes with his brother, making sure Berg knows, "Yeah, you're seriously an amazing younger brother for jumping in to help." He tells the kid to drop the worries completely and admits that honestly, Bergs is way more suited to lead the family. Bergs completely snaps, convinced his brother's just playing the hero for him, while Rest just stands there, thinking, and somehow admitting to himself that he's actually relieved to be gone. He honestly can't wrap his head around why his brother's getting so choked up over this like it's tearing him apart. Right when Berg starts sobbing, begging that he's not strong enough to stop the exile, the sun dips low, painting the massive stone walls of the family castle in a blazing last light glow. While the birthday party keeps rolling, a massive cake towers on the table like the main event. The dark-skinned maid wraps up the cooking and calls out to everyone that the food is ready. The food's finally ready, come and dig in. Rest strides through the door with a huge grin blaring, "I'm finally back." The red-haired maid bursts in to greet him the second he arrives, smiling and calling out, "Happy birthday," before he even settles in with them. Everyone dives into a massive feast, and one of the maids, Cade's, cornered Rest and demanded to know what kind of place his new home on Aldoba Island really was. The question hits the younger maid like a punch to the gut, and she instantly freezes eyes wide, mind totally blank. He clears his throat and tells the table, "I'll explain everything," because since he's fully clued in on the whole history. He explains that Aldoba straight up means the farthest reaches of all. He goes on to describe it as a total loner of a rock craggy cliffs towering everywhere. With no one else for miles, an eerie, unsettling vibe hangs in the air. And the worst part is that the kingdom basically threw in the towel and stopped even trying to investigate that place. When the maids hear their lords being shipped off to that shady island, panic hits them so hard, they look totally wrecked. Rest sinks back with a relaxed grin, waving everyone off like, "Don't sweat it." He just shrugs off the worry, like they'll hack their way through it somehow. Then he adds that Bergs is even sending a few of his guys to back them up, but only right up until they finally reach the island. As they step over the estate, he thanks them for everything, then leans in and begs them to keep a close eye on his brother while he's away. The girls aren't about to leave him alone. One of the maids watches, clearly terrified something's about to go wrong. Tareen steps up and declares she's going with him, because babysitting him is literally her job. Right then, Agni jumps in and tells Rest that he's way too casual about it. So I'm like, if she stays behind, then who's even gonna cook? And that's when it all goes downhill fail. Phil lunges in right after her, waving like a maniac and yelling that she's totally coming along. Right as Rest freezes, she's totally hyped because the whole idea sounds like an absolute blast, and Rest can't wrap her head around how she's handling it like that. Antony lets out a heavy sigh at the sheer power, then mutters, "The whole vibe screams, no worries, it's just a field trip, not, run this mission is gonna get deadly." That sparks something in him, and suddenly, he's obsessed with the idea. Like, this is a huge field trip waiting to happen. Rest leans in and basically tells everyone, "Yeah, you're right." And then it hits, you realize this is nothing but a field trip. And he tells them how he even snagged the kingdom's official island survey data. Now they're absolutely set. And it makes Fail practically vibrate with excitement, buzzing about whether she can bring snacks along for the ride. Tareen's all fired up like, "This sounds amazing." But Kieta just lets out a heavy sigh, stunned that these kids really believe the same thing. Then the story drops down to the docks, and everyone scrambles into action gear in hand as they prep for the trip to Aldoba Island. The pier is chaos today. Workers are hauling gear and supplies at full speed toward the ship. The worker slams on the brakes, points at the pile, and shouts that there's literally zero space left for all those heavy logs and steel frames. So, he tells the other guy, "Rest straight up told us to just leave all that stuff right there on the dock." The crew huddles around a giant mountain of lumber, scratching their heads like, "Why are we walking away from this?" But then the order hits, and they move. The worker just glares at that pile like, "No way am I getting paid enough to wrap my head around this." Beastmen workers stare at a mountain of lumber dumped on the docks, and one of them can't stop thinking, what is going on? So what's Rest planning to do with all this heavy gear? And just nearby, Rest slips into telling Kieta he's relieved because everyone chooses to stick with him. But Kieta turns to the young lord and bluntly tells him they'd never even dared to dream he'd be the one. Then you held on to the dream of ditching him and making him deal with everything by himself. Kieta blurts out the truth he's doing this because of a promise he made to Rest's mother. Back then, he swore to her, "I'll always stay by your son's side no matter what happens." The moment he hears his mom's name, a couple old memories crash back into him, and he suddenly realizes that he made her a massive promise with his own mouth right before she passed away. He swore he'd never unleash his real power in a reckless way that could drag chaos into everyone's life. Memory slings him straight to her bedside, where Lady Eliza leans in and asks if he truly understands how heavy the weight. She looked him dead in the eyes and told him the power he was born with isn't some mystery at all. Rank craft skill. Youngrest is left totally speechless and blurts out, "Wait, do I really have an S-rank skill?" His mother just stares at him for a moment, then flat out confirms it's true. She warns that the moment people get their hands on a power like that, they'll chase the wrong reasons and burn everything down. He's got to swear he'll use it only when it's a true emergency. So Rest locks eyes with her and promises his mom he'll follow through no matter what. Back in the present night, Rest flashes a casual smile at Kieta and flat out says this finally feels like a real emergency. Kieta stares at the young man with sheer respect, and tells him, point blank, that everyone is counting on him right now. Rest nods, tells everyone I'm good, and breaks into a fast stride toward the docks. Kieda's left in the dust as he barrels toward the cargo, right where the chaos starts next, where he slams to a halt before a towering mountain of logs. He clocks that the workers have wiped the whole area clean just like. The wind screams through the quiet harbor while Resto stands there, alone, staring down the towering wall of stacked wood. A hard focus locks into his eyes and he tells himself it's go time. Then he asks if they're finally ready to start. Right then, massive wooden buildings and ladders shoot up into the air as the construction finally kicks off. The whole construction crew rolls in and starts cracking the ground immediately. The Beastmen workers just stand frozen, mouths hanging open, totally stunned by what the morning light reveals. One guy stares at the empty pile and goes, "It's all gone," while the other swears the logs were right there last night. But the crew doesn't look back. They've already left, steering their ship straight for Eldoba Island and smashing through the third day of the sea crossing. On the deck, the sailors suddenly lock onto something far on the horizon and scream to grab everyone's attention fast. Rest finally gets a breath, and the maids sprint straight to the railing, while Rest yells that the island is right there, finally in sight. Yeah, it's not your cute little island. This place is a colossal vertical cliff, a stone monster that shoots straight up, towering into the clouds like it's daring the sky to stop it. Rest can't even keep his gaze steady. His eyes go wide as he takes in the massive scale of the place they're meant to call home, while everyone else is losing it over how incredible it looks. Rest finally gets it. Kieda was right. This place is on a whole other level. The sailors start panicking, trading scared looks as they whisper, "Can anyone actually live on a rock this huge?" Rest stares up at the summit, and the crew scrambles with one thought: how on earth are they going to explain all of this to Lord Bergs? Rest leans toward the window at his brand new home, flashing a massive grin and blurts that this is the freedom he's been chasing his entire life. And, as the ship vanishes past the horizon, someone blurts out that they're finally all alone, just their little group stuck on the shore. As the island development finally kicks off, the crew yells that they should eat first. Kieda's stomach is growling like crazy, but Agni shuts it down and tells him he's got to hold tight and wait a little longer. In this world, some people are born with mind-blowing gifts, super rare powers that, the kind of thing most regular people swear is sent down by God. But the truth behind where they actually come from is way darker. It's still a complete mystery. Nobody can truly make sense of it yet. Rest, kicked out, and now living under his mom's maiden name, throws his hands up and screams for his power to finally awaken. He can't believe they handed him a crazy rare S rank like it was nothing. He refuses to back down, and with pure craft magic, massive wooden beams come hurling through the air, then snap into place perfectly, proving just how insane his skill is. Kieda and the maids just froze there, staring in total disbelief as the wood slid on its own like it was no big deal. Rest's power only needs one thing to kick in. He just has to keep every raw material close enough so his gift can reach them. Rough wooden planks glide together and snap perfectly into place, locked like they were made for each other. Metal screws rocket into the sky, swirling around the whole site like real-life magic. The screws practically yank themselves into the wood, wrapping it up in a flash. Rest steps back and proudly shows off the massive new pier he just finished, then boasts that his craft skill lets him build basically anything he can dream up. And Kieda flashes a proud smile as the old butler leans in and tells the kid he absolutely crushed the build. Rest just grins and admits, "I couldn't have pulled it off without the blueprints Kieda mapped out." But the real secret is that he doesn't have to play pretend with being a master builder or burn years studying how everything's built. His gift is so messed up that it basically fixes everything for him, automatically. He just has to touch a blueprint, and his power snaps into place, reading the whole plan in an instant. Tareen tells Kieda she'd only heard rumors about this from him before, but seeing it up close hits different. Then she blurts out that his power is straight up incredible. Veil beams with all smiles, staring at the finished pier, joking that even the structure probably feels thrilled to finally stand then. And Turin can't even keep it in. She blurts out that rest is basically a myth. Just to pull this off, Anyi just freezes, staring at the results until it hits him. So that's why the craft skill is such a huge deal. Rest just throws his hands up, scratches his head, and tells Kieta he's only relieved his power, actually paid off meanwhile. The old butler just stands there, wearing a proud grin, absolutely thrilled the kid is crushing it. Kieta doesn't even hesitate. He jumps in and asks, "Should we hit the cliff next and start fixing it?" And he updates Rest's already got every blueprint locked in and ready to kick off the next phase. Rest is totally down. He throws up the green light and tells him to keep the momentum going. As he locks in, growls an order, and summons his power to materialize once again. So the whole crew crowds back as this massive surge of energy slams into the cliff, and bam, the remodel kicks off. Ongni and Fail are totally stunned. Then they blurt out, "So your power lets you erase things just as easily as you create them." Kieta keeps his eyes locked on it and realizes this gift rest thing isn't some tiny one-time deal. It definitely has more tricks than that. So Rest tries to crack it down. Admits he can't nail the exact details, but figures it's just a side effect of his main power. It all boils down to one thing. He needs raw materials before he can build anything at all. To prove it, he grins and holds his hand out. Then everything from thin air gets sucked into his inventory. And that's his whole plan. He's going to rip open the entire cliffside and hollow out a gigantic cave system for them. Fail can't stop staring, still trying to make sense of the physics, like where those massive rocks even end up once they vanish. Rest keeps it calm, telling her everything's safely tucked inside him, ready to fuel future projects. And with the path finally cleared, he shouts to the group that it's go time to march inside and start working. They're going all in, turning that cliff into a monster full-on base, complete with ramps, a cafeteria, proper drainage, and even an open-air bath up at the top. The cliff base blueprint is a giant map, laying out every exact spot from the top floor bath all the way to the chimney, and the whole area is stitched together with sprawling ramps and a tricky drainage network that keeps everything from falling apart. Keep that cave bone dry. Rest clapped into action, thrusting out his hand, and hollowed the rock with effortless precision to carve it exactly how he wanted. Soon enough, Turin strides in with a basket and tells everyone, "Break time, let's eat," like it's the best plan ever. She grins and tells them, "I've got Agni's homemade sandwiches and hot soup ready for everyone." Rest is totally on board, insisting the timing is perfect because he's only just started to feel it. The whole crew crowds around a flickering lantern inside the cave and digs into their meal like it's their last chance. Rest grabs his sandwich and carefully pokes into the middle like he's searching for something hidden, which makes Fail lurch closer, eyes narrowing with a suspicious glare, and demands to know what he thinks he's doing. Rest's mind goes blank the second it hits her. He isn't plotting at all. He's just fighting to pick the pickles out of his lunch. Agni snaps, tells Rest to stop, and says being a picky eater does not exactly scream Lord, so he should knock it off. Rest looks totally guilty, blurts out an apology, but deep down he still wants to fight for his side of the story. He frowns and fires off, asking Agni how his food choices are even tied to developing the land. But she cuts him off. She refuses to hear it and reminds him that keeping him healthy is part of her job as his cook. Realizing he's not going to win this battle, Rest finally throws in the towel and digs into those pickles. He chews with this totally miserable look on his face. But Kieta just stands there grinning, like the world couldn't be better. Later, while Rest's stuck doing dishes, Fail barges in and asks if she needs help, offering to fetch some fresh water. Rest tells her to give him one more second, then thrusts out his hand and kicks water magic into action. And just like that, clean water gushes straight from his palm and splashes into the big pitcher. He stuffs it to the very top in a blink. And just like that, life gets way easier for the girls. Agni's jaw drops when she realizes that Rest can somehow stash plain water inside his magic inventory. She shoots him a look and asks if he just stuffed it with seawater. And Rest snaps back that he's been secretly secretly hauling water from his family's well every single day, quietly stocking up for something bigger. Andmi's stunned, he blurts out, "Seriously, does my storage have no limit, or will this water just spoil in there eventually?" She can't help but wonder if it gets tossed in with his other stuff. But Rest straight up tells her everything stays sealed off and never spoils. Rest admits it outright. Yeah, he's tested it, and once he stores something, it never runs out. Forever, yeah, and he can't lie. That thought's kinda terrifying. He tells the girls they won't have to worry about water for a long, long time, and Taran is utterly blown away. Vale lights up with a brilliant idea and asks, "Can I finally take a bath now? We've got so much extra water." So Rest tells her, "Leave it to me," and promises he'll fix everything on the spot, no delay. Then, boom, there's a full outdoor bath set up under the stars, and everyone's soaking in pure side-splitting fun. The girls look totally at ease, smiling like they've finally been freed, scrubbing the road grime off their faces for the first time. Stars shimmer and the moon glows over a quiet cliff, and the night crawls forward inch by inch. Morning slams onto the island, and the moment the crew's been waiting for is finally here, time to start moving. Rest's break drags Quieta and the maids straight to a gigantic rock wall towering at the cliff's base. He points to it and breaks it down. Fast, if they hollow out that exact spot, they'll slip straight into the island's very heart. Rest fires the crew a question, ready to start, and Fail instantly erupts with hype, throwing her hand up like she's about to sprint into battle. Before they even break ground, Fail slams on the brakes and interrogates Rest. What's this new home of theirs supposed to look like? Rest drags out the word house, like it just clicked that they need one, then leans in and asks Fail what kind of place she's dreaming about. She's not holding anything back. She's screaming that she wants a huge, fancy mansion, surrounded by flowers everywhere. Rest grins and tells her, "Leave it to me," then stretches toward the stone as Agni watches, stunned. He slaps his palm against the solid rock, and beep! A tiny signal crackles as his magic finally surges to life. The whole crew finally snaps into action, charging straight into a gigantic cave while the crowd chants and cheers, like they just cracked the island wide open. Then 6 hours later, reality crashes down on them, because the road ahead isn't a route at all. It's a brutal dead end. Agni shoots a look at them while asking, "So you really can't push through?" And they awkwardly nod back like, "Yeah, we can't." So that fancy house dream is officially frozen while the whole crew hauls themselves into a cave and sets up camp to live there. After days of brutal hard work, they finally smash through a hole in the island's outer wall. Fail is the first to spot what's on the other side. He screams about the trees as they yank the wagon free. Rest surveys the room and blurts out, "We made it," like he's finally ready to kick off his fresh life under his mother's maiden name. Agni lets out a heavy sigh and admits that she'd started to worry they might be stuck in that cave forever. The whole crew huddles at the edge of the woods, staring into a forest that looks wildly bigger than any of them expected, like it's daring them to step closer. Terrain scanned the dense trees and felt the chill hit so creepy he couldn't even hear a single bird song. Torin stares out at the silent forest and can't shake the thought, are they truly the only people on this island, or has everyone else been silently pretending along with them? Quieta rubs his beard and leans into his memories, replaying everything he knows about this place. The group huddled beside the carriage in the middle of those creepy woods as Quieta snapped that none of this showed up in the official records. Then he cut himself off because the original investigation had been cancelled. Halfway through, he snaps that you can't actually trust any of that old info anymore. The whole crew charges onward, smashing through the dense, choking trees without slowing down. Trees clawed past on both sides as they guided their horses straight into the unknown. Rest goes still for a heartbeat. Then his face flips completely like something snapped. He tells everyone, "If those old records are junk, then we're going to deal with the investigation ourselves." And his first move is pure resolve. He cuts a straight path through those trees so they can finally get the carriage rolling again. Fail clocks the timing and thinks, "This is it." Rest needs to break out those crafting skills. Then he straight up tells her he's doing exactly that. But just when they finally push through to the clearing, all they find is a brutal heap of shattered stone and buildings reduced to ruins. He gapes at the enormous wreck, scans the chaos, and blurts, "What is this place even supposed to be?" While, as Agni calls out that the house is practically a complete disaster, everyone just stands there, stunned. They just soak it all in till Kieda steps in and reveals these are ruins, carved out by some old expedition crew. He figures if they dig through that trash for real, they might actually uncover something useful. Rest is all in on the idea and tells them they've got to check it out for sure. Ani tells them, "You guys go search and Rest let the girls handle the food." Best snaps on a mask to fight off the dust, then braces himself to start hauling those heavy beams and he hurled the cracked stone aside, clearing the center of the room. Kieda stares at the wreckage and mutters that those wild beasts really tore everything up. So Rest wipes his forehead and tells him they'll have to warn the maids to stay safe. Rest wipes the sweat from his face and blurts that he's genuinely relieved they checked the place first before they ripped everything down. He spots a set of old, broken stairs clawing up into the second floor's darkness. So he barrels up the creaky steps, chasing whatever secret's waiting at the very top. Kieda hurries after him, and before they know it, the two of them are staring down a massive wooden door. It's totally sealed up. Rest demands answers about where they're stuck, and Kieda can only guess it's the commander's office, so that means they're about to land in something, because there's still a real chance those crucial investigation files are hiding somewhere out of sight. Kieda snaps the truth: this whole expedition had to get scrapped, because the Guld, the Empire blindsided them with a savage surprise attack, abandoning a pile of priceless research materials untouched. Like, it's absolutely massive. So Rest just nods and tells him, "I get why this room matters so much." Kieda almost uses his craft skill to gulp down the door and be done with it, but he stops himself. Rest points out that if he absorbs it, he could smash the papers inside, and that's when Kieda nods, because his Rest goes into full detective mode, staring at the handle and the keyhole's shape like it's about to crack the whole mystery, waiting to see if it's something he's already familiar with. He tells Kieda, "Don't worry, I can probably just craft a key for it." Kieda wears a worried look, but Rest just grins and loudly brags about his craft skill right then. He's about to. It forges a flawless key, and when it slips in, the door pops open with a massive, satisfying click. Kieda shoots him a hard look and demands to know when he picked up that sketchy thief stuff. Rest gets all jittery and blurts, "Wait, those same locks were at our school." And then he realizes it and just shuts the queso. But Kieda can't shake the question, why on earth is some noble kid messing with locks in the first place? Rest tells him to save the lecture for later, then finally yanks the door open with full force. The two of them stride into the room, and a massive cloud of dust erupts from the floor like the place just got punched. Kieda stares at the almost bare shelves, then points like, "Yeah, most of this stuff's already been swept out." Rest checked the desk over and over like something about it just had to be right. Finds the place stripped clean, like someone already stole everything worth taking and left only emptiness behind. He reaches to yank one of the drawers open, but it shrieks in this strange way, freezing him mid-move as he realizes the drawer's jammed on something, leans in for a closer look, and flat out says something's definitely stuck inside. Rest manages to pry it open, spots a tiny notepad that must have slipped out and landed inside. Kieda's convinced it was just wedged in there. They crack it open, and there it is. Pages slashed with frantic handwriting and chaotic scribbles, spilling out the truth. Rest reads it out loud, saying the notes are about one thing: tracking down whether indigenous people are living right nearby. Kieda tries to stay calm, but Rest's already one step ahead. She insists they'll have to go introduce themselves if anyone's around. Anmi leans in and studies the notepad herself, spotting a detail that even Rest had overlooked. She slams on the brakes, grabs his attention, and tells him the exact sentence he just read is crossed out. Anmi drops his gaze to the notebook, nods along, and basically tells them, "You're totally right about what?" Rest looks dead serious as he brings up the official country date, and basically says it never mentioned a single thing about natives living here. He figures the original crew must have gotten mixed up with something else, then went back later and crossed out the notes. Kieta rubs his chin, flips open the investigation team's report, and starts replaying over and over in his head how they swore no one ever touched that island before. No tracks, no signs yet. Now everything feels off, like the world just won't explain itself. Vale's face falls like he can't believe it, and you can tell he's disappointed. He points it out and says the team just couldn't crack anything about the natives. She leans in close and asks Rest if she can take the notepad and have a look for herself too. Rest reassures her it's okay and presses the L into her hands. The little book slipped closed and then so Kieta leans in and asks, "Do we just charge ahead like someone out there has got us covered?" She fumbled the book as it slipped from her grip, staring at the cover like it might answer the one question burning in her head. Are they really the only two souls stuck on this island? Vale confirms she's found something, and the rest of the team snaps their heads toward her, eyes wide, clearly stunned by what she's uncovered. A sudden discovery hits like a shockwave. As the notebook gets lifted into the blazing sunlight, every fiber of the paper comes into sharp focus. Vale yells for everyone to stop, then notices one of the pages feels weirdly bumpy under your fingers, so Ryuji leans in, and the truth hits hard. She snaps to it. She knows she's right, and she presses, asking if those marks are just indentations someone left on the page before her. He spots this page right after the one that got ripped out, and that little detail is going to matter. They might actually crack what that missing text said just by decoding those marks. Rest thrusts out a hand for a pencil, and Vale shoves one into it, then asks if a colored one will do for this. He starts shading the paper, and the pencil strokes suddenly expose the secret letters the first pen pressed into the page underneath. And the whole group freezes in shock as the notes lay it out. There's a spring buried deep in the woods, a rider on a monster, and even a child living there. Next, the final piece of the hidden message clicks into place, and the truth hits hard. The island's mystery person is an elf. The group starts circling the same terrifying question. Who might be out there right now? They're stuck, staring at it, wondering, could it be an elf? Or maybe even a fairy? Every time she fails, she instantly skyrockets into excitement, yelling that she really wants to be friends with them. He just sits there grinning like crazy and watches her without moving an inch. I loved seeing her so bursting with energy. Ani hesitates, glancing at the others, and blurts out, "Do you think whoever's out there could be terrifying?" And Taran, Green's gut drops. What if they can't even understand a word the other person is saying? Admits they might not speak the same language at all, but she's already got a plan in motion because she's about to. She decides that if they'll just share a little bit of her, shared his favorite snacks and sweets with them, then everything will finally click. She lifts a lollipop, grins, and swears they're going to get along just great. Kieta scrambles to get Rest's attention, but Rest just bursts into laughter and blurts that he really, really hopes things work out, though he doesn't finish the thought. Rest leans close, drops his voice, and whispers to Kieta that he refuses to scare the girls with anything serious. Kieta just gives a quick nod and tells him, "Don't worry, I've got it." Admi pitches the idea of grabbing food for the group, and Vale instantly blows it. They're all in yelling that they should absolutely start eating. Agni shoves a stack of plates into their hands, and Vale refuses to back off. But Vale snaps back that she's got it and snatches them up on the spot. Rest looks totally overwhelmed and barely holding it together, and blurts to Kieta that they're in a total disaster. Kieta shoots back, "Yeah, we're really screwed." Kieta slams the point home. If humans were the ones cleaning out the F, then Rest knew the elves would never just stand there and watch it happen. He tells them because elves live in the fore. They live in the forest and wield way more magic than humans ever could. They're naturally proud, like they know exactly how powerful they are. Even the word rest spills the truth, because the kingdom is getting crushed, trying to negotiate with them like it's trapped in a nightmare. He says he's really praying the elves aren't the reason the last investigation blew up, because the next part is about to get ugly. The official records say that the survey team on Aldaba Island just ditched their mission and walked away for good. Rest and Kayata freeze on the spot, fear creeping in as they realize they're about to march straight into disaster. Kayata leans in and tells the group, "Don't worry, I'm gonna watch the forest like a hawk." Rest looks Kayata in the eyes and says he's counting on him, then everything cuts to. Then Rest decides to lock in and spend some serious time poring over the notes. Two tiny birds are just chilling by the ruins, like they own the place. Kayata strides into work and double-checks every single material he's about to use, like he's hunting for the one mistake that could ruin everything. Kayata shouts that the foundation inspection is done, and Rest thanks him for the news. Then the moment cuts off mid-sentence, like something's about to go wrong fast. The moment has arrived. Lord of Elba Island, time to step up and seize the spotlight. Rest cracks that he's ready and tells Kayata, "Don't blink, I'm about to kick this off." He explains how he forged the structure by hardening the stone he dug out from the tunnel. Kayata slaps the blueprints into his hands, and Rest blurts that the loading's done as he drags his hand across them, scanning them instantly, and he slams down his craft command, shouting it out as his power finally erupts. And just like that, the ruins get ripped open, then water starts swallowing everything. A blinding beam erupts, and a massive structure starts to take shape. A few hours later, the girls are right there, frozen with their mouths hanging open. And that break right there lets everyone know it's officially happening. Their brand new home rose like a miracle, a gorgeous mansion, built right on top of the old ruins. Bale is losing it with excitement because they finally get a roof over their heads. Agni is still frozen in stunned silence while Rest starts thinking about his brand new family. Finally, that family could kick back and live in full comfort. They rush to Kayata's room first, and it's basically a giant library, packed with every book he wants to keep. Then they hustle over to Terrine's corner. Her place comes with a walk-in closet. A closet so huge it could swallow an entire wardrobe in one go. And Fail's room is this tiny secret hideout, complete with its own attic space. So yeah, it totally leaves. Agni stood there, staring in the quietest way possible, then flashed a big, happy thumbs up, like he'd just won something. It's finally time to sneak into Agni's room, shoves the door wide open, and then she freezes dead in her tracks. Blurt out, "Wait, what is this play?" Agni goes completely off the rails the moment she sees what's inside, because the whole room feels like a special gift the builder left just for her. She's never laid eyes on anything this adorable in her life. Turns out, the room is crammed wall to wall with an enormous mountain of stuffed animals, and it keeps going, way past what anyone expects. They're absolutely beaming because he forged every single one with sheer crafting mastery. Bale starts clapping and cheering like crazy because the surprise hit exactly right. While Rest turns to thank her for the help, Agni just freezes there, stunned beyond words. Agni tried to play it smooth, then swore straight-faced that she never said they. She calls them cute, but Fail just bursts into laughter because she's got the real truth right there. That house runs on serious tech. Up on the roof sits a huge water tank that refills itself, then pushes the supply through ceramic pipes straight to the bath and the dining room. The rest of the manor holds its ground, just as sturdy. There's even a carriage house, plus a grand lobby built to handle keys, Kayata, and a moat barriers built to keep those monsters from getting in. The lights don't stay on. Long magic stones are pricey and a pain to find, so he only drops them into the shared spots, like the kitchen. Rest finishes up the last bits of the lighting and declares, "That's it, done." It looked totally pleased with how everything finally worked out. Agni lit up over the brand new kitchen setup, grinning as he declared that cooking was about to get way easier from here on out. She tells Rest how much she appreciates all his hard work, but he just flashes a quiet smile. Miles shrugs it off and tells everyone it's no big deal at all. Later, Rest hauls Kayata aside and presses him for what comes next. And when Kayata asks if anything's wrong, they lay it all out. Then the horror hits. They've already burned through nearly every last scrap of building materials in their place. They hauled in cotton and hemp to smash through the room prep, but at this point they're running bone dry on supplies. Supplies now he'd had enough, and he'd seal the rest with one final signature. They push the idea of catching a ship to the nearby town so they can finally stock up on supplies. He lays it all out for them, everything they'll need, and then leans in like, "I'm counting on you to make this trip happen," especially since the Dine family handed them a solid chunk of startup cash to kick things off. If they don't watch their step, that money's going to run out sooner than they think. Rest insists, urging Kieta to take a breather before they set off for the nearby town they seriously need to scout the area and sniff out real local resources they can trade with. So once the plan's locked in, Rest wipes the slate clean and calls it a day on all the Lord stuff, and Kieta nods in agreement. And they finally drop their worries, grab a seat, and dig into a real, satisfying dinner. Smoke begins curling out of the chimney as the day finally drifts toward night. Everyone crowds around a table piled high with food, and the meal's host steps forward like, "All right, let's give thanks." They're thanking fate for letting them live, and for the meal about to hit their plates, while everyone bows their heads and prays together. Rest notices Tarine's surprise, then explains that saying grace like this is a huge tradition in his family, his mother's family. He flashes a massive grin, then thanks the whole crew for being awesome enough to roll with it. The whole crew dives into the night's meal like they haven't eaten in days, a steaming bowl of chicken and vegetable soup, packed with warmth and flavor. Tyron just tells everyone that Lady Eliza would be over the moon about it. That rest is how they keep the Kyle territory's traditions roaring to life one step at a time. Moving, Odney clinks into the scene while serving soup, grinning as he praises it as a killer habit. Always be thankful for the food. She orders Rest to polish off every single bite, no leftovers. Not a crumb. Turin lifts a pickle to his face and hammers the reminder, "Eat those two now," making the crew panic hard. Rest throws his hands up and swears he's not touching those pickles. No way, no how. Keita steps in, shoots him a warning if he keeps picking at everything. He'll never grow up big. The sun drops below the horizon, and a joyful moon glows overhead like it's celebrating. Over the house, everyone finally settles in. Next morning, the sun burst through the clouds like it owned the sky, kicking off a brand new day. He starts the day with a long, lazy stretch by the window, soaking in that sweet, beautiful weather like it's the best part of life. Rest just stares out the window when bam, he spots something that makes his eyes widen. A gigantic hairy blur streaks straight past the mansion, and he can't stop his mind from screaming. What the heck was that? Outside, the world looks dead quiet, but the moment you step inside, things get way wilder. Rest ushers the maids in, and Fail snaps, "Why'd you haul everyone here like this?" Rest leaned in and started breaking down everything, telling them that earlier this morning, he spotted this massive round furball just roaming around right outside the mansion walls. It might be that rare monster everyone's been whispering about from the island reports, but it falls flat. He looked super skeptical and fired off a question, like he was ready to challenge whatever came next. Demands to know what he even means by calling it a furball. Rest swore it looked exactly like the fluffy stuff perched on her head. As she listens to his story, the round hair accessories fail that one's wearing it. Rest just stands there, utterly dumbfounded, staring at the group of fluffy round creatures, until he finally realizes these aren't random furballs at all. Agni barged in, saying Fail didn't mean to, he just tripped right into these little guys, then cut himself off mid-sentence. Earlier that morning, while she was elbow-deep in laundry, and Fails, adding that she thought she'd totally ruined the rest of their clothes, washed them too hard, and boom, lint balls everywhere. But then it turned out, but the whole time, those birds were barely bigger than crumbs, tiny little things hopping everywhere. Fail starts panicking, wondering if these poor souls are just lost, and then he Rest nods along, locked in on the exact same thought as Anmi just stands there, locking eyes with one of the round birds, trying to decode what on earth she's even staring at. She can't shake how bizarre it all feels. Then she turns to the group and demands, "Are you seriously planning to keep doing this?" A thunderous crash slams through the house, and it's like a switch flips. Retsu and Fail bolt to the window, desperate to see what just happened. He slips outside, calls everyone over, and announces that the giant furball monster he spotted earlier is finally crashing the scene. As Kieta watches, he can't help it. He says that sound hits him like a warning, because it reminds him of monsters he fought back when he was still an adventurer. Kieta drops a chilling truth: this monster is a cockatrice, a ravenous little bird, claws like knives that usually he looks downright vicious, so seeing one this fluffy is basically unheard of. He's convinced that that giant bird is out here hunting for its chicks, just trying to bring them back, which is exactly why Fail had already slipped ahead, grabbed the little ones, and hauled them right back to their parent. She figured that was the end of it. Then the bird refused to leave. The whole family finally crammed into the carriage house and made it their home. Kieta locks eyes with the creature, then points at it like, "Look at that, its behavior is totally off." It looks like the parent bird is frantically trying to vanish because something out there is closing in. And while the birds glare like they're cramped in that horse stable, Fail just breathes a sigh of relief. At least they're safe. Kieta clicks his glasses into place and goes silent, like his mind's racing to figure out what kind of terror could scare a monster that big. Kieta bursts to Lord Rest, shouting that for everyone's safety, they've got to slam back into the mansion right now. A hulking beast looms by the trees, and suddenly it feels like the forest monsters are finally creeping in on the manor. Anmi still sprawled out, totally relaxed in those fluffy feathers puffing out, totally oblivious to the danger lurking outside. While he rests, a brutal noise snaps from the woods, and he can't stop wondering if that same direwolf was stalking the cockatrice earlier. The young lord of Elba Island suddenly panics, then snaps that he'll use his crafting powers to forge a cage. But Kieta slams a hand out and stops him cold, saying the direwolf is too dangerous, so the boy should hang back and let his butler take the fight. The beast rockets into motion, and its enormous face suddenly swallows their view as it barrels closer, and butler Kieta growls as he tightens his stance, ready to throw himself in front of his master the second a fight erupts. Rest panics and blurts, "Is it coming for us?" While Kieta snaps his weapon out and screams, "Don't worry, just drive it off." Then the scary monster lets out a tiny whimper totally different from what everyone expected. Rest stares at the massive beast and realizes it isn't even fighting back. While Kieta says the creature looks like it's barely hanging on, the animal is looming over the guy on the ground, and Rest is freaking out, demanding Kieta explain what in the world is happening. Turns out the beast wasn't attacking at all, it was just licking the passed-out kid's face. And they finally realized the animal was trying to help. With everything on fire and no time to waste, Rest declares he's cracking open his crafting magic to build a full infirmary right there on the spot, so they could move the kid into a real bed. And they told everyone, "Don't worry, he'll make whatever else we need to treat the patient." Tareen gives the kid a quick check and tells him, sure, he's out cold, but there aren't any major injuries to worry about. But she still has to do that. A more thorough exam just to be safe until it cuts off right as it's about to reveal. She bursts out, telling everyone that she's going to have to strip the kids down to finish the checkup. To give them some breathing room, Torin tries to shrug it off, but he just waves it away and insists it's totally fine, since the kid's a boy. Leaving Rest completely baffled, he blurts out how she can be so sure. She just flashes a grin and says, "I already checked." Torin can't stop herself. She breaks into a quiet laugh as she starts herding the kids into their places. She takes one look at what the kid's wearing and realizes it's top-tier quality, then points out that the tailoring is ridiculously well done. I'll fail. No, I can't help it. I'm staring at the kid's adorable ears as I fumble with my own clothes. The second she clocks those sharp, pointed ears, it hits her. There's no doubt. They've got an elf on their hands. Now that an elf's in the mix, the group can't help but wonder, does anyone here even know how to speak Elvish? Leading, he stopped mid-step, glanced at Kieta, and demanded to know if he'd ever seen that kind of language or literature before. So Kieta leans over the bed, double-checks it, and realizes he's got a bit of Elvish in his own head too. Ani steps up and tells the kid, "You look way too weak," then storms off to whip up some soup. But right as she turns to leave, she blurts out, "I just hope this kid's not the kind of picky eater who refuses everything, like Rest instantly bristles and demands, "Why'd you drag my name into this like that?" Vale shoots a look back at the rest, and then locks eyes with Agni. Staring at that pretty, annoyed as hell, he snaps at both of them, saying they're way too loud and they better quiet down before the elf kid finally snaps his eyes open, staring up from the bed, totally numb and completely lost like he has no clue where he is. The whole group hunched over him, staring like it was a nightmare so hard the kid jerked back and yelled because he never saw a crowd coming. Rest tries to soothe the moment, insisting he probably just scared the kid. But then his doubts hit hard. What if they don't even speak the same language? Because the boy just locks eyes with him, and after a beat, the kid murmurs, "Where she is." Then Agni finally snaps to it. He's been understanding them this entire time. Rest grins at him and asks, "Are you talking about that wolf from earlier?" As she lets him know the animal's just hanging around outside for now. He keeps the chat rolling, points out that the wolf looks starving, and wastes no time. He grabs food and makes sure it gets a full meal. Rest shoots out his hand to introduce himself, saying he may not have been around long, but technically, he's the lord of this place. Though Kieda thinks that's only half true. He locks eyes with the kid and asks if he's willing to share a little bit about who he really is. For a split second, the boy goes silent, clearly rattled. Then he finally snaps back and blurts out, "I'm Koratoki." Koratoko blurts out what happened. He says he stepped on something called a slate of flour just outside the village, and the rest is totally lost. Like, what on earth is that? He stares at the plant while the kid rattles off the local legend. Apparently one wrong step curses you, and your magic power just vanishes. Korotoko thrusts his arm up so they can see it. His skin's gone jet black from the curse, and Kieda stares at that dark hand, blurting that, sure, humans may survive, but losing magic is a total disaster. For elves, magic isn't a luxury. It's the thing keeping them alive. And Kieda's wearing pure seriousness as the boy hammers the warning to everyone. He orders everyone to stay back, because if anyone steps too close, the curse will latch onto them too. He finally tore himself away from home. He didn't want to be a burden or stir up trouble for his parents, so he bolted, running as far as he could. Rest looks totally unconvinced about the curse, and he flat out tells the crew he's never heard a single thing like this in school, and he can't wrap his head around it. One random flower under his foot, and suddenly the damage is massive. Vale listens. He hears the whole tale, squints like, wait, is there a real reason behind this? And wonders if it's just pollen from that flower messing with him. A mysterious flower sparks a reaction. Kieda hears the theory, nods like it clicks instantly, and agrees it could be the key. Rest keeps pushing forward. He figured it out and laid it out. The curse legend might just be what folks call a nasty allergic reaction. Russ whips around to Tareen and asks if she can get a closer look at the kid. And she grins. I've got it. He presses her hard. Does she really know her stuff when it comes to medical stuff and sickness? So Tareen leans in and tells him she spent endless time digging up every scrap of info she could find for Lady Eliza's illness back then. And after all that studying, she's confident she can finally crack the mystery and help solve it. She tells the crew, by later tonight, I'll bring you real results, solid ones. As the hours drag by, the sun finally dips low over the house, washing everything in fading gold while, just when Tareen finally returns to gloat, she's right. It turns out it's nothing supernatural at all. The flower pollen is the real culprit. Rest finally catches her breath and realizes that terrifying curse is nothing but a medical problem. And then Agni nods in agreement. Tareen leans in and tells you, from what I know, turns out the plant is a super rare flower. Then she adds that its pollen only messes with regular people, and the rest cuts off right there. She sneezes and it absolutely wrecks the elves. She freezes for a breath, then blurts out, is there even a medicine that can cure an allergy this bad? She looks downright crushed, staring at her no-choice situation like it's stolen her only chance. Tareen straight up admits she's got none of the right medicine, and rests trapped in that helpless, stuck in a rut feeling. But the second she says the recipes are all tucked inside her medical book, Rest snaps, "Let me see it." Now he realizes the real battle isn't fighting at all. It's tracking down the exact medicinal herbs they desperately need. Rest snatches the book and rips through the pages, hunting for the exact section they need. He slams to a stop on a page covered in a sketch of that exact herb, packed tight with notes telling him how to use it. Rest leans in hard over the instructions, scanning every line like it's hiding the next move. Rest stands there with his eyes shut, but inside his head, everything's sprinting at max speed as he desperately tries to remember. Then it hits him. He digs through his inventory and spots an item that looks exactly like the one in the book. He yanks up the whole record of everything his craft skill has swallowed so far and starts scrolling through a wild, random list. The materials he hauled in? He's sure he only grabbed that herb by mistake while he was busy building those islands. On Maryland's roads, tearing forward like the whole state is about to get caught in the chase. Rest shrugs off how he got it, telling himself, forget it, just yank it out. Instead of spiraling into overthinking, he thrusts out his hand and ignites his power. Then bright little sparkles burst into the air. They pop into existence as the items start to materialize. Right in front of Tareen, a pile of plant bulbs bursts into existence, and Rest leans in, asking if those are the ones. Tareen's face lights up the second she grabs it. She practically screams, "This is exactly what we need." She's so hyped, she blurts to the others that she's starting the medicine right this second. Well, Bale and Agnes stand nearby, grinning as both of them look thrilled that things are finally clicking. The whole crew finally settles into the massive mansion resting on the island, and Anmi turns to Korotoko and asks if he likes the soup she just made. And when he grins and says it's delicious, he only gets out, "Thanks," before everything hangs on the next beat. But he's still totally stunned. He admits he had zero clue a place like this even existed. Not for a second. Agni just smirks and tells the kid, "You won't believe it. We only just showed up and finally got settled in." Korotoko keeps repeating. He couldn't even believe it, like the word recently hit him too hard. And when it failed, that's exactly what confirmed it. Anmi gets hooked on this kid's home and starts grilling him about the village, where he lives, staring at the horizon, wondering if any other elves are hiding nearby. Anmi shoots him down. Then Korotoko steps in and reveals the truth. His village isn't for humans at all. It's for half-elves. And yeah, he's half-human too. Bale tells him the truth. Suddenly he's just like Agni. And the kid whips his gaze to Agni, stunned and staring. He blurts out whether she's a half-blood too, and Agni snaps back that she's a feline beastman. Half-blood Korotoko finally gets the whole picture. Anmi blurts that the medicine won't be ready for a while, so she leans in and asks Korotoko if there's anything else he wants before it's too late. Can't wait. He's craving food even while they're stuck waiting. Bale keeps pushing that she wants chiffon cake, but Agni shuts her down and snaps, "I didn't hear you ask me." Bale totally ignores the shutdown and starts hyping the food anyway, insisting Agni's cake is just super fluffy, super delicious. Seriously, it's like the best thing on earth. Korotoko says, "I want to try some too," and Agni jumps in, agreeing like she's all in despite the fact she's totally fine. Agni suddenly gets it. If they're really going to bake, they've got to dash out and track down some eggs. But then it hits her, this place has 0 chickens anywhere. She can't stop overthinking it. And then it hits her. Something stranger is happening. And seriously, just look. She scanned the cliffs, inch by inch, and not a single bird ever dared to take flight anywhere on that whole island. Agni leans in, eyes sharp, and asks if they should march straight to Lord Rest to handle this bird mess before it gets any worse. Bale nods and agrees instantly, while Tareen tells the kid to just hang tight for a minute. The sun keeps blazing over the island as days roll by fast and before anyone can blink. Long Kortoko's out there playing around, and he's wrapping a massive, joy-bursting hug around a huge wolf like it's his best friend. Rest watches him from the side, grins, and says the kid is finally looking completely better now. He gives every bit of credit to Tareen, swearing it all happened because her miracle cure worked. A weird, bone-chilling squawk suddenly rips through the air, and Rest and Tareen instantly freeze mid-action. The two of them glance over with the kid, trying to suss out what's going on. Totally baffled, Agni just stood there, totally crushed. And Kuretoko shot her a question. What's going on? Turns out she stumbled on this cockatrice monster. And she's crushed because the bird just won't warm up to her. Rest shot a look at Agni and warned her, sure, that bird looks adorable, but don't be fooled, it's still a monster. He tells her again, don't poke at this. But Agni can't look away because he's completely caught up in how fluffy it is. At this point, she's completely obsessed. She can't stop talking about how she just wants to bury herself in all those soft feathers. Kuretoko cuts in, calls out to her, and promises, I'll show you the right way to befriend a cockabird. The whole group's like, wait, what kind of name is that? And the kid clears it up fast. It's just what his village calls that kind of cock, nothing more. Just tradition. Then he lays it out. If they can somehow hold on to what's left, they'll have a steady stash of eggs. His Rest and Taran lock eyes with him for a moment, and suddenly they're just completely lost. Like they missed something huge. Rest decides to go for it and build the chicken coop Kuretoko kept talking about. Right then and there, while Kita bursts in and slams down the blueprints he already drew. All built from the kid's description. Kuretoko nods and fully backs the design, but gives them a heads up that if it's stone only, the bird may stop laying altogether. Rest shoots a look at the monster bird and its chicks. Yeah, they look tough, but the truth is, they're fragile to the bone. He tells everyone to back up for a sec, then drops his crafting skills into gear, and before you know it, the brand new chicken starts to. Coop is completely done polished, packed, and ready to blow you away. Next up, food time. Agni declares it's all done, then slams down a giant fluffy white cake like it's the main event. Kuretoko dives into his very first try right from the start. Kieta can't even believe. He's instantly blown away by how insane this tastes. And then he starts diving into what it all means. They dove into the birds, how they copied the cockatrice's routine, especially the way they guard the fertilized eggs. So just shove the unfertilized ones straight out of the nest. Agni can't stop smiling. He's buzzing, calling it awesome, because they finally nailed down a real, solid source of protein. Fails laughing, pointing at the egg like, bro, this thing is basically the size of Rest's whole face. Rest agreed, grinning, because a haul like that meant they'd be stocked with food for ages. Smoke curled out of the chimney as the sun blazed overhead. High Terrain drops a heavy hint about the core. Toritoko's parents are probably freaking out right about now. Then the rest of them hits the brakes on waiting and makes their move right now to haul the kid back to his village. Then he blurts out, he says, since they're all living on the same island now, it's basically his. As the Lord stepped in to introduce himself to everyone around him, Ambi lights up and tells them, that's a perfect idea. We're absolutely getting a gift. She perks up and insists we split the fluffy cake she just finished whipping up. Tyron cuts in and demands they fetch some slay-to-flower medicine. She's almost certain this will come in clutch for the villagers, and Kurotoko's emotions hit hard. He thanks everyone, completely moved that they've been so kind to him. Kurotoko glances up, worry creeping in, and blurts out, should we really head home right now? Or am I just going to end up causing trouble for everyone? And Tareen shoves him, She gives him a soft pat on the head and tells him not to worry, smiling that he's all healed up now and everything's going to be totally fine. The kid breaks into a smile, and you can practically see the weight lift off their shoulders after those kind words. Rest slams the final call and roars for everyone to get ready. Yeah, they're finally leaving, straight for Kurotoko's village. The whole crew crowds onto the tower balcony, staring out over their brand new home with pure adrenaline. Then they're ready to roll. Rest stares at the magic stone cradled in his hand, and the crushing weight of being this island's lord slams into his chest. He's standing there scratching his chin with a deep thinking face like he's seconds away from cracking the next move. When suddenly, Tyreen strides up to him and asks, straight to his face, what's been chewing at him? He just leans in, says good morning, and admits he was only checking if he could actually stash those magic stones they'd found. He keeps ranting that those stones fuel everything like light, so Of course he's convinced they have to bring them along, but wait, there's way more. Taran stares at the pocket watch in his palm, and everything clicks. It's his mother's old clock, hanging there in his hand like a calm, quiet truth. Taran stares at the old clock and blurts out how every tick hits him with pure nostalgia. Rest said this would be a nightmare in the making. What if the clock's magic fizzled out while they were escorting Koritoko? Then he'd have to step in and fix it fast. Then he turns to Taran and asks if everything they need for their departure is running smoothly. Everything's fully ready now, so the moment he's set to leave, they can ride straight into the village. The head maid shoots him a fast, heartfelt thank you. You actually look ready for whatever chaos is waiting on that trip ahead. Before anything could happen, they already scouted the spring's direction from the tower, and once they finally hit that exact spot, Korotoko's confidence will kick in, and he'll know the way home. He stares into the distance, replaying every brutal detail of their mission in his head. Turns out those notes about an elf kid and somebody hauling themselves onto a monster weren't random at all. Turns out Koritoko told him those notes were all about his people, because his villagers usually hunt from the back of wolves. Turns out that mysterious spring in the forest is sitting right next to Koritoko's, and because those old expedition notes were, it never even mentioned a village, so I'm betting it's hiding a little farther out than they ever imagined. He glances at the others and goes, "What if it's just the two of us? Let's handle the escort for Koritoko ourselves." While the details get sorted out, his strange hobby of admiring bridges is brought up too. Rest is feeling on edge, warning everyone that the island is crawling with monsters strong enough to smash the investigation buildings to pieces. So yeah, he's got a bad feeling the road ahead is about to get terrifying. Koritoko just stares at him, totally baffled. "Why are you freaking out? There aren't any monsters here," telling them it's perfectly safe, because the holy beast has everything under control. He explains that it's the beast itself, quietly holding the forest together, keeping away any real danger. Rest just stood there, locked in thought, staring into the mystery like, what is this holy beast even about? Koritoko sounds almost calm as he tells you the sacred beast is always there, watching every single thing. It quietly keeps everyone away, so nobody sneaks in and wrecks the forest. Kid blurts out that the beast haunts the shrine by the spring non-stop. So every person in the village rushes to leave it offerings the moment they get the chance. Rest can't stop gushing that this whole thing sounds incredible. Then he suddenly hesitates. He starts to sweat, panicking that the beast might lose its temper after he wiped out a whole bunch of trees with his magic. Kieda stands there, soaking in every second of it. And if this monster's actually guarding the whole place, they can finally breathe easy for once. So he commits, he's done wasting time, and he's going to dive into those old documents they left behind, but as the last investigation crew handles the case while he watches the cockabirds, then finally collapses into rest. Rest is thrilled because the help finally shows up. Because the maids are trained to fight, Kieda tells the group to stop hiding in safety and let the rest of the team take the risk. He blurted, "Heads out," letting the rest of them know, "I'm about to go grab Fail and the other girls from outside." Then he's gone. The sun stays hidden behind thick clouds while the whole group finally settles into their new home. The massive kokabird just towers there, unmoving, like it's daring anyone to try something. They're staring around like every single thing just shattered their brains. Odni locks eyes with it, daring it to blink first. Listen. It's mostly because she's got a secret soft spot. She can't resist anything fluffy. Rest clocks her strange behavior and tells her, "You don't have to force yourself to take care of the birds. Since Fail is already out there, you already got used to dealing with them anyway." Absolutely obliterates. Agnishi can barely squeak out even a single note. She starts spiraling in tears, mumbling that she's totally useless as a bodyguard for while it all falls apart. Already geared up in a bird suit, he served dinner like a secret showman. Onmi's like, "If I can't swing a sword, then I'll make myself useful in every way I can, by taming the little ones," which makes every moment of rest feel oddly uncomfortable. To cheer her up, he told her to rest. Agni asked her if she'd tag along with him so they could go hunt for something to eat. Agni looks absolutely shaken by the plan. Then he gives a quiet nod and agrees to go. while Kita whips around to make it fail, telling her he's officially done, leaving Rest safety in her hands. Fail snaps back, "Leave it to me," and swears she'll show him everything she learned in martial arts. And just like that, the entire crew finally sets out as one, pushing straight into the thick, mysterious forest. The forest swallows the sky trees, crowd every inch. Mushrooms pop up everywhere you look, and Koritoko tells everyone he chatted with Rinalond, the horse, about pulling the carriage, so they won't need a driver at all. Rest is genuinely stunned, blurting out whether every half-elf can talk to animals. And then, but Koritoko snaps that it's only his family. So that's why he became the animal keeper back home. The sun finally tips toward the horizon, and the world slips into a golden sunset behind the trees. The whole group scampers to the woods, setting up their camp as the night starts to roll in. While Rest is knocked out cold, Fail keeps watch because she's not just pretending. She's the real deal in a fight. While everyone's off camping, Fail tries to shake Agni awake. Then Agni jerks up and snaps, "What's going on?" Fail tells her she just spotted a tiny, fluffy little creature outside Admi's, shocked at the word fluffy. But she admits she's just as curious. Two she's. She's freaking out a little because everyone else is still dead asleep right now. Still, Agni couldn't stop replaying it in his head. How that fluffy little thing looked so soft and insanely cute. So Admi and he slicked out into the bushes, chasing that little light like it was calling his name. Tareen's eyes suddenly flare wide. Like something just snapped into place, she cranes her neck and shoots her eyes wide the second she spots something way out in the distance, glinting through the pitch-black woods, where a mysterious glow spills out like a secret nobody wants to admit. Agni blurts that she can see it too, and realizes it's actually, honestly, it looked more like a soft light pink than plain white. Turin's jaw drops. He tells Agni he's got seriously insane eyesight for spotting that. Agni just keeps staring at that tiny creature, and somehow he can't deny it. She's ridiculously cute. Someone slips through the thick grass, just a few steps from the campsite, right beside where their carriage is parked. For the night, Restine finally jerks awake, sits up in bed, and coughs out a half-loud "what?" He spins around, completely lost, and the truth hits him as he realizes. Something's off, he snaps. Where are Agni and Fail? Because they're nowhere around. And Tareen pauses for a beat, wrestling with the thought. She hesitates, then finally admits it. When he brings it up, she realizes she hasn't spotted them anywhere. Just as the wolf erupts in a booming bark to grab their attention, Koritoko jabs a finger at the woods and tells Rest straight up whatever's out there. That wolf can smell the two girls coming from that way, leading them deeper into the forest as shafts of light cut through the trees like blades. They finally stumble on this massive secret hideout. Boom, there's a roaring waterfall, ancient stone buildings, and then, just as the clues start to make sense, it keeps going. Anmi just stands there staring at the water, asking, "Is this a spring?" While his voice lights up because it's absolutely gorgeous. Fail starts to get uneasy about just how far. They trudged on, peppering Agni with question after question. "Do you really think we'll make it back?" Agni grins and tells her, "Your eyes are sharper, and your nose is even better. They're way better off than most people, so they should be fine." She just throws in a probably, because she's covering every base. Fail freezes, realizing she's the one who pushed Agni into this. But I never thought her friend would get this dead serious about it, until Agni suddenly grinds to a halt, claps a hand over her nose, and recoils. She swears she smells something totally bizarre, and it instantly leaves everyone around her staring at her like, "Wait, what?" Agni sneezes hard and snaps. That smell is straight up monster stench. And yeah, it's clearly messing with her so she gestures toward some stone ruins and tells them to head over there. Fail snaps, "You okay?" But Agni admits she feels so messed up she can barely stand, and that floors everyone watching. Right then, a shadowy figure with a razor-sharp edge lunged into view, ominous as night itself. A sharp horn slices through the bushes near the bridge, cutting the air with every blare. She walked off, and he just stood there, her face utterly blank, like she couldn't even process what happened. As she leans in and scans the scene, and demands to know if something was truly lurking in the bushes. Agni is completely wiped out, slumping over and crashing her weight into her shoulder. Fail catches her, shoots her a concerned look, and asks if she's okay because, as Agni can barely hold her eyes open, she tells Fail to stop and take a breather. But Fail only keeps staring at her, totally frozen. She looked scared beyond belief, and she couldn't believe her friend had pushed herself this far until she landed in this exact state. They huddle on the stone bridge's edge, and Fail's eyes snap around the dark paranoid that some monster's lurking nearby. But she finally wheels back toward Agni and blurts out a heartfelt apology. She finally admits the real reason she dragged her out here. She figured Agni would melt over something soft and fluffy. Turns out Agni was feeling really low because that cockabird wouldn't so much as act friendly. And she immediately looked away, eyes down, cheeks burning like she was about to burst into embarrassment while, as she thanks Fail for the support, she admits she might have been pushing things too fast. And it leaves Fail scratching his head, totally confused, until Agni finally spills the truth about her real goal. She admits she didn't just come here for fun. She came to tame that. She points out that bird so she can be more useful to Lord Rest than Fail, flashes a playful grin and calls her out, asking whether Agni didn't. I just wanted to befriend the bird because it was so insanely fluffy that my heart couldn't handle it, leading to Anyu's cheeks flame as she blurts that, yeah, maybe that was part of it, while Fal just grins, totally loving how adorable her friend is. Fayel lets out a small laugh, but Agni's face stays set and she hits back, dead serious. It's true, I really want to be useful to Lord Rest. Fail rushes in to lift Agni's mood, bragging that she's already dependable and that her cooking is straight up incredible, and Agni can't help but blush, as Fail adds that her friend is perfect exactly as she is. Then Cinderella down and admits she's not good at fighting or martial arts like Fail is, so, like, she couldn't even lift a finger to protect Lord Rest if a real emergency ever hit. She feels even worse about it since she's half beastman, and everyone usually knows what that means, renowned for sheer strength. So she finally starts cracking open her life-telling Fail about her family, and revealing that she has an older brother who's still out there undercover, moonlighting as a spy from the Dine House, and pulling off all kinds of top-secret missions. She leans in and tells him the only thing that matters is, the only reason they got the job was because half-beastmen had reflexes so wild they could react to anything. Then things got ugly when even Agni straight up admits her reflexes are trash, and she's convinced she's nothing but a burden on her brother. Agni slumps over, feeling completely worthless, and admits she doesn't even have the usual beastman strength, and she says she couldn't really complain if they'd just tossed her out. But Lady Eliza kept praising her cooking like it was something sacred. Agni recalls how Eliza praised her food as delicious, and admits that's the only reason she could have ever ended up being a maid. Fail hangs on every word, nods like she finally understands, then tells her friend, I really hope I can. She can at least hang with those cockabirds. She even promises she'll be right there, ready to swoop in and help her out. Suddenly, something rustles from up top. The tall grass around him sent Agni into a full panic, and he screamed that something was definitely lurking. Near the carriage, Rest shouts to both girls, and he botches it. Fail glances back, feeling a wave of relief hit him, then a sudden, wait, cuts him off as a massive blur rips across the field at insane speed, charging straight for where they're all standing. Rest locks eyes on the approaching danger, and his gaze snaps wide as he realizes just how brutally fast it's coming. This new threat's coming fast, so he blasts out a warning, everybody watch out. It hits the ground with a sickening slam, right as it drops into the dirt. Rest and the maids freeze on the spot as a hulking white beast with one massive horn slams into their path, glaring down at them. They stare down at them. Then someone yells, "It's a monster," and panic surges as everyone wonders if those horned beasts have started an invasion. As he stared at the beast, it finally clicked. He realized he'd heard about this thing before, because Kieta had told him all about it. He remembers back then unicorns only act sweet to pure maidens, but to everyone else, they're basically wild, bloodthirsty monsters. Turns out, Whenever these things decide to rampage, a whole swarm of people end up dying every single year. Rest starts sweating. Realizing there's no way he's a maiden, so this whole situation is starting to look seriously bad. Dangerous for him then. Out of nowhere, he blurts out that he hates pickles. Karatoko shrieks like the whole world is happening to a holy beast. Karatoko stares at the creature, and then, right when it matters most, asks for a second if this unicorn is really meant to be. It's the legendary holy beast. Then the creature actually opens its mouth and declares, "I'm not a unicorn. I'm a unicorn." Rest just freezes with his jaw hanging wide open, utterly stunned that the animal actually spoke to them. The unicorn starts ranting that normal unicorns just don't get how the world even works, while the rest just freezes there, utterly clueless, while the beast rants that they're killing people instead. The possibilities are wide open, and the creature looks dead serious, arguing that if love is still there, then it doesn't matter what else happens. It's basically asking whether the girls are truly pure maidens, or if that whole having multiple women around thing is enough to satisfy his fantasies hit hard. But after that long talk, he's wiped clean. Fail looks totally lost and blurts, "What? What is this horse even trying to say?" Then the unicorn spots them and recognizes those same lily flowers from earlier, which, wondering if it's talking, or if I'm just the one losing it, talking about her. Then the beast keeps going, spilling that it's been watching them for ages, and it's only getting worse. From across the water as they kicked back and hung out by the pier, it drags on and on, like the story won't ever let up until then, until Tareen finally clocks what's going on. She flashes a smile and calls the creature out for peeping. The unicorn blushes like crazy after they call it a naughty horse, and it totally acts like a little girl, acts all snapped, huffing that he wasn't some low, vulgar creature, and Rest goes wild, blurts out to Karatoko that the holy beast can actually talk, and that's exactly when the video slams to an end, leaves the kid completely stunned. Karatoko leans in and asks, "Is Rest really only obsessed with that? Right now, he can't shake the feeling something way bigger is screaming for attention." Beast's weird behavior left everyone on edge. Karatoko even admits he got startled at first when it started talking, and there it was. The beast slinking in close to the women, stalking them step by step. That's what really knocks the breath out of him. Moving on. The unicorn starts sweating like it's about to snap, and he leans in, asks if Karatoko is that same kid from the local village, then he cuts himself off. Immediately, he starts begging the kid to keep the whole thing secret from the villagers, so it doesn't, and he's determined to smash his reputation. Then he blurts out the truth. They've been worshipping him like some giant sacred creature for ages, but Tareem shuts him down cold, telling him he's not mysterious at all, just a talking horse. Unicorn finally admits it's a bad habit right on the nose, like they warned him, and Rest and Turin just stand there, taking it all in, while he tells them that once he starts, he literally can't shut his mouth. Talk just keeps pouring out. And while that's happening, some villagers in the back are yelling for the holy beast. But the unicorn says, every time he storms into a villager, he played it cool like a harmless horse, keeping way out of reach. Then he tried to pin down the exact moment it happened, but his thoughts trailed off as he dug into the past. Tareen catches the vibe and the sheer size of it, and she blurts out that this is about to turn into the longest story ever. Then the unicorn glances over, and then he rushes in, throws out a real apology to the group, and admits it's just been an insane amount of time since he finally got a moment to talk to anyone at all. Tyreen looks totally stunned, then repeats his words back at him, demanding he explain what he means. Like right now, the beast leans in and says there used to be monsters everywhere. Then it cuts off like a warning, all over the place back in the day. Like chaos was the only plan, and he made sure he spoke to every single one himself. One of them always popped up the moment they showed up, and that's the only thing that could explain why. The unicorn leans in and tells you that after a while, the monsters finally vanished from the area for good. Rest just stared at the silence, eyes sharp, and asked if the monsters only backed off because he kept hammering them with nonstop pestering. Then Shirtarine's quick to point out it wasn't any holy power at all holding them at bay. He just watches. With a flat, deadpan stare, the beast finally admits he didn't just wander in, he desperately wanted to start talking with the villagers. He claims it happened forever ago, but the truth is, yeah, he really did try to talk to the humans back then. One-time humans. It wasn't just a story. It was the start of something huge. Remember this. When he showed up, every young woman in the area sprinted to him the instant he arrived. Right then, he actually believed he'd finally landed in his popular phase and that everyone had fallen head over heels for him. But right there, he freezes for a beat, replaying the exact words those girls fired at him back then. That pulls us right back to right now. Agni bursts out, shouting that the horse reeks horribly, and the beast just freezes in shock, stunned, and Agni just pinches her nose, staring at it like it's the most disgusting thing she's ever seen. He shoots a look down and goes, "Yeah, that's exactly what they told me back then vows he's out of here until the beast snaps. You'll never come near humans again. And it seals the deal as he chooses to just keep staring from far away like always. Korotoko's about to shout at the holy beast because there's no way he can bail yet because they finally got their moment to talk, and that's not something you walk away from. The beast freezes in shock and blurts out, "Are you really serious about talking?" Korotoko answers without even hesitating, and he blurts that he wants the beast to spin him a mountain of stories from the old days. Korotoko snaps that the beast isn't guessing it knows the village's entire past, so he needs to haul himself back and spill everything to everyone. But the beast's ears drop, and he sheepishly admits he still reeks so badly that the whole situation instantly turns awkward. Korotoko shrugs it off, saying a little stench is nothing, and everyone can handle it. Tyrant's face twists with annoyance, while Agni looks like she's one breath away from snapping. Agni is totally stunned. She can't even process it because it's like everyone's just brushing her off. Rest stared at the creature and wondered if that stench would ever wash off. Right then and there, the crew huddles up and decides no messing around. They're going to give the holy beast a full-on deep clean. They haul out a tub by the river and set up shop, while the beast crouches in the grass, waiting for the right moment to strike. Vale smiles. He asks if they should start by washing the beast's body, and the moment they say it, the beast starts stuttering like it can't even breathe. Still in total shock, they're really about to touch it. The story even calls it out. Like, yeah, you're actually going to. How she shouldn't do it, because it could wreck her. And just then the creature's face flushes red, like it's thinking, a shot like this might be the only one we ever get. Rest storms in with a giant brush, yells, "Time to scrub," and the beast. He snaps his head back in pure shock, while Agni just stands there, radiating pure disgust, and she looks like she's 1 second from snapping. Like the stench is choking her breath and breaking her mind. The cockatrice blurts out that he bathes every single day, because he's terrified that a maiden will call him out and say he smells like a beast. And yeah, he's even been bragging about how he tried rolling around in a patch of herbs just recently. He slipped deep into the forest, risking everything just to track down the perfect scent. But Rest won't stop scrubbing and keeps demanding, "Did rolling in those random forest herbs really cause that stink?" At last the bath is done, and the beast glows like it's been polished to pure starlight. The crew crowds in to inspect the results, and Agni admits that the brutal stench has finally died down quite a bit. But Torin can still smell that basic, beastly stink. It's definitely there. Vale starts pounding the problem, hunting for a new idea, and wondering if they can squeeze out one more last shot. She suggests a little perfume could wipe out that natural smell, and Reist nods like it's the perfect escape plan. He snorts, grins anyway, and leans in to ask how the beast feels about the sweet scent meant to catch girls' hearts. The cockatrice perks up the second he hears that Agni's perfume has women swooning, while Agni just stands there, looking like a statue. Totally annoyed, she watches as the rest rushes to gather the ingredients for Tarine's special scent, cracking open orange and vanilla, then hunting down local herbs to finish it off. He points out that most of these plants were actually spotted the very moment they first started working on the island. But here's the twist. Rest leans in and tells the whole crew, "You guys aren't missing ingredients. You're short on the severe of flour we need for this recipe." And it hits like a gut punch. So Tareen blurts out, "What even is it supposed to look like?" And Rest grins and offers to sketch a quick picture so she can spot it instantly. Tyron decides to tackle the drawing herself, then proudly shoves it in everyone's face until the mess hits, and Rest totally snaps. It's nothing but a chaotic heap of black scribbles somehow. They're claiming it's a flower, resting on the masterpiece stairway. In a deafening hush, he figured nobody could ever make sense of this. Not ever. He's dead convinced that this drawing is so cursed it could snap someone's mind just by staring at it. And with everything getting stranger by the second, he decides to lean on his crafting skill and take it on himself right there and then. Rest glares at the drawing and realizes the whole world has already censored it, wiping it down to a nasty pixelated nothing. Tareen scoots in close and fires off. Okay, seriously, what am I even meant to look at? The whole group starts freaking out. Maybe this isn't the flower they need, because that drawing is so awful they can't make out a single thing. But Fail just grins and tells her she crushed it with that drawing, and the unicorn just stands there like, "Yeah, I've seen enough." Suddenly, the unicorn whips around to Turin and orders her to grab tight onto his horns, leaving Fayle frozen in total confusion, trying to wrap his head around why he'd ask for something like that in the first place. The unicorn tosses out that a girl's touch on his horns feels ridiculously amazing like. "Yeah, but that's not even the real point." Whitney's face twists into pure disgust as she tells him, "Keep it. Keep those weird fetishes locked in his own head. Don't go sharing them with anyone." He shrugs her off and fires back, saying there's more because he can literally read the thoughts of anyone who touches them. He flat out says he'll literally die if he lays eyes on a man, and Agni's left in the woods, scrambling to figure out why these rules are so unhinged. The unicorn points out that from your description, he might just know the exact spot where a whole bunch of, not a single one of those flowers ever blooms, which amps him up so hard he blurts out he'll try grabbing the horns himself. Right up until the moment he reaches, the unicorn snaps at him, hissing, "You're a fool," and slamming down a warning that no one, never a soul gets to lay a hand on them. Rest just bursts out laughing, saying the beast is weirdly shy. Kuretoko just stands there, crushed and staring into the void, asking himself if he's next on the ban list. He thinks the whole situation is pure chaos in the best way, and asks the unicorn if he can read her thoughts too. And without a second to spare, she shoots her hand out and clamps down on his horn with a no-nonsense grip. Unicorn twists into a weird grimace and drools right from the contact, and Agni watches it happen with a stunned look as he blurts, "You're saying, man, the whole thing is downright disgusting." He grits his focus and shoots Fail a sharp question. Was she just thinking about eating sweets? And he stole a few bites of Agni's chiffon cake, and Fail is absolutely blown away, telling the holy beast he nailed it, like it's the coolest thing on the planet. She grins and declares, with zero doubt, that his mind-reading powers are the real thing. Fail snaps at the unicorn, telling it to stop poking into people's minds and stick to reading the flowers. Yet the beast just stares, dazed, and swears it'll keep her secrets. While she keeps her hand clamped around his horn, she rubs it back and forth as they trade words. She finally confesses she's never actually laid a hand on a horn before, and when she touches it, she's hit with the shock warmth like it's alive. The holy beast starts acting strange, and it tells her she can squeeze it far, far harder than before. He pushed it even harder, then let out a creepy little laugh. His fail lands him a brutal squeeze that he can't shake off. The beast bellowed this wild, bizarre cry that tore through the entire forest like a thunderclap. The unicorn suddenly surges to life again, shouting that the flowers are hiding in a cave near. He yells for everyone to follow him, and Agni just stares right through him with pure. Rest jolts the guy awake like it came out of nowhere. Then it still doesn't work. Fail just grins and says it's painfully obvious the holy beast is straight up loving every second, guiding them straight into the black mouth of a rocky cave, tucked high in the mountainside like a secret only the darkness knows. Kuretoko stares at the entrance, then blurts that it's his first time here. Because back home, everyone's been talking about it non-stop. I kept warning him to stay the hell away from this spot, and Turin stands there watching as they gear up. Get ready, go inside. Vale snaps the truth. The Severia flower scent isn't what you think it's actually. Why do people suddenly get so sleepy? Then it finally clicks. She realizes why catching a nap in this spot felt so damn wrong. Strangely, it felt like the world was holding its breath before everything snapped. Rest decides it's a long haul, so the three adults should be the ones who rush out, grab those plants, and so the crew pushes forward into the dark, jagged cave entrance, one step at a time. Undni charges ahead, and Rest swings the lantern up high, lighting the road so everyone can follow, until they burst outside and stumble into a massive, glowing cavern packed with white flowers. Flowers spill everywhere, and one of the girls blurts out, "Look at how gorgeous this whole place is." Tyron just freezes in awe, blurting out that she had absolutely no clue a place like this even existed. Was even on the island while Rest scans the place and blurts out that he honestly really wishes. Kita probably felt this coming too. Onni whips his head back toward him and says, "Forget the rest, let's just grab some flowers and be done with it." Rest stares at the white flowers and says they'll be the perfect thing to bring home. They're gonna light up the dining table back home like it's the best night ever. Tareen grins and nods, agreeing to. That's a genius plan. She's convinced Kieta's gonna eat these up the moment he sees them. So Rest swears it'll only take a few to keep the scenery gorgeous, then leans on his craft skill to gather them up fast. He's out there picking flowers when everything freezes. He suddenly halts, cranes his neck, and stares up because he just caught a weird sound in the air. Then the entire cave starts trembling, and the girls freeze, wondering if an earthquake just kicked the door in. As a huge shadow creeps in from the back, rocks start raining down. Someone jerks in shock and screams. Right then, a faint voice cries out for help, and Agni snaps, asking if there's really someone else trapped inside the cave. Rest peers into the dark, his gut screaming that he might have found one of the missing people from Korotoko's village. So he dashes off to track them down while the girls shout for him to wait up. Rest just shoots them a look and says, "You're good," because with his craft skills on his side, he's got his safety covered. Rest snaps at Agni and the others to turn back the way they came, while he strides ahead alone. He pushes deeper into the cave, and then boom, the ground rumbles so hard it rattles the whole forest. The unicorn blurts out, "Is this an earthquake?" And Tareen shoots back that she's got a terrible feeling about it, like something's about to go terribly wrong, so Korotoko bursts out with a loud shout to the whole group. They huddled up to make sure every single one of them was doing okay. He stumbles onto a rest stop, cranes his neck upward, and whatever he spots crushes his hope like a sudden wave. Someone was dangling off a massive rock pillar, groaning through sheer struggle as they fought to hang on. The cloaked figure is clinging on with their fingertips, hanging by a thread. Then the ledge slips out from under them, snaps clean through the air, and drops them mid-fall. Rest reacts in a flash, screaming for his craft skill to finally kick in. He shapes a massive stone hand out of nowhere. Then it shoots out and snags them at the very last second. The cloaked girl drops onto the giant stone hand like a whisper, landing soft and silent. And once the rest finally hit, he let out this tiny groan. Shit! She spins in place, completely baffled, and can't stop asking herself why. Why does the ground suddenly feel like it's shifting under her feet? Across the gap, Rest shouts to make sure she's okay, but she just stares right back. So Rest scratches his head and asks if she's the one who caused all of this, and she just nods. He leans in, relief flooding his voice, and asks if she's safe anywhere, hurting in any place at all. Then he cuts off mid-sentence and trails off. Then he thrusts his hand out and introduces himself, less tasking her name. She just looks up at him with wide, shocked eyes, like she can't even process that he's being this kind. She starts blushing, looking wildly flustered by it all then. But just as Rest starts to ask again, she grabs his hand and murmurs that her name is Estria. Vale and Korotoko just froze on the spot, staring with their mouths hanging open, totally stunned by everything they were watching. From way out in the distance, one voice yells for them to rest, Then the second Estria spots who it is. She snaps around and realizes it's her brother Kali. Rest, stunned seeing them back together like this, knocks the breath out of him. But Estrella doesn't waste a beat. She lunges in, wraps her arms around him, and sobs, spilling that she's been watching for him. I tore through every corner, searching for him everywhere. Kali grins and admits he didn't just slip, he got cursed by a slate of flour. And, yeah, thankfully the curse didn't get to finish. Rest showed up out of nowhere and swooped in to save him, so when Estria hears that Rest helped him too, she's left completely stunned. Next, the crew glances back at how they whipped up that special perfume just for you, to summon the power of the holy beast. Tareen says it's her new scent now, and Kali just freezes there, totally baffled like, wait, holy bee. One of the girls clocks that the strong smell doesn't even faze her anymore. So Fail tells them that as long as they keep applying that rub-on, everything will work. Using perfume once a month keeps the scent feeling brand new. She lifts the jar up high, like she's about to reveal something that'll change everything. It has this sweet, sugary scent that hits her like a perfect memory. Exactly like Tareen. The holy beast is convinced he's got everything under control. He can totally feel the girl staring at him like never before, but Agni's glaring at him like she's furious. Agni's eyes sharpen like she just clocked something huge, but she stops short, hesitating to say it out loud as the tension builds. As she points out, at this rate, the holy beast won't even get to use that perfume. And just like that, the poor guy's hope totally crashes. Koritoko bursts into the conversation with a fresh idea. Let's just go and he goes straight to the local villagers for help. Then he whips his gaze to his sister and says he's sure everyone back home would gladly step in to watch over the holy beast. Estria nods with total conviction and tells the beast it would be an absolute honor to take care of him, making the beast look utterly crushed by emotion. Nobody's ever treated him like this before, so he squeezes out a shaky question to Estria. Will she and the villagers truly accept him exactly as he is? He's grinning as he orders them to let the whole village hear the holy beast sing. As Agni stands there with Rest and the other maids, relief floods in. She's finally smiling because the beast is home, right where he belongs. Rest nods, and the girls trust Astoria to take point, trailing her deeper into the woods so they can finally burst into Utarau village, a hidden little calm spot tucked under a giant towering tree like the world forgot it was there. Once they roll in, the holy beast strides straight up to an old elf and greets him like the village chief, while the chief glances over his shoulder and blurts, "Man, it's been ages since we last laid eyes on the holy beast." The old elf pauses, then leans in and fires off the question. "Tell me, beast, how many years has it been since we last spoke?" He kicks it off by saying this was back when the beast was still just a young man, and Fail immediately knows, oh no, this is about to be a crazy long tale. Rest pieces it together. The chief must have been one of the rare people who knew the beast could talk, but there's work to do. So they snag the village plaza and gather everyone in one place. Rest and his crew start handing out the special. The medicine they hauled in to break the curse on the slate of flowers hit fast, and soon it was all unfolding. Word rockets through the village, and the villagers freeze in shock. Can they really find a cure for the flower's curse? The elves are practically vibrating with excitement, and one of them blurts out that their hunting range is about to explode bigger since the curse finally breaks, so the whole crew drops their guard, sinks into Rest, and thanks him for saving their village. So Rest just grins back and tells them, "I'm genuinely happy I could help everyone." He makes it crystal clear that if they ever, once trouble rears its head again, he's always there ready to throw himself in and back them up. And just like that, Koritoko comes barreling into. He crashes into his father's arms, yelling that he's finally home, and his dad just exhales in pure relief, seeing him safe. Look, he leans over his son as he rests, while the girls stand off to the side, watching them closely. Rest says he's just thrilled the holy beast, and Koritoko slid right back into the village so easily while watching the family together hits him like a wave. He goes quiet for a single beat. Watching that connection sparks fear in Rest like. Is there ever going to be a day when he finally has to face his own father again? But he whips his head around at his friends and he finally understood it. This island wasn't just a stop anymore. It had turned into his real home. Anmi just stands there, staring with the deadest, blank expression like she's not even there. But then Rest bursts into laughter and asks if Agni really said something that actually made him laugh so. Ani cuts him off, saying it's nothing like. That he only sounded exactly like Kieda for a split second, and she couldn't help herself. Rest grins and tells him, then quit stalling, get to work, and handle your duties as the lord of this island. He figures the best move is to hit the villagers first until a voice suddenly cuts through the air and stops him cold. And Boomestria steps in, smiling like she owns the place, saying she cooked a huge meal just to thank them for everything they did today. Hope shines in her eyes as she begs the group to come join everyone for the food, but he slams to a stop, staring at her like a trap just snapped shut, caught completely off guard. Estria is thrown off by his reaction. While Rests can't stop staring at the animal ears perched on her head, she catches him staring and, with total chill, casually points at her own beastkin ears like, yeah, that's me. Rest meets her gaze and blurts out, so you're really Kuritoko's older sister? And Estrella finally lets her guard down, starting to tell her story about her. She goes digging into her past, telling him the real story of how she ended up washing ashore right here. Island she was finally snatched to safety by the local villagers, and somehow she made it out alive. She leans in and tells him, I live here, me and my younger brother, and then drops the rest of the story. It says that ever since Corey arrived, her family has been spoiling her with non-stop care and real love. Rest realizes they're not the only ones who stumbled into this place meanwhile. Agni just sits there quietly, and that's when R.S. can't help but get curious. She wants to know where she's from, so she asks for her home country, and then she leans in and tells him it's the Goro Empire, a place that basically screams, Beastmen live here to everyone who knows the rumors. Then she hits everyone with a jaw-dropper. She reveals she was the Empire's third princess before she vanished and left her behind in. Angmi breaks in and fires off the question, was this a political marriage? The rest only nods like, yep, classic noble drama. And that's when it all clicks. Estria drops the act, straight up tells him that's exactly why she wants love then marriage, carried strictly on her own terms, and the rest smiling admits he totally gets that too. He came here chasing freedom too. Then she suddenly snatches his hands and asks him to marry her. Rest just froze for a heartbeat. Then the fear started to knot up in her chest as the truth of what she'd just done finally hit. Reality finally hits. She just stands there, wearing the most innocent smile, like she's totally innocent. Rest finally snaps. He finds his voice again and repeats the word marriage right back to her. But just as things were about to get even more awkward, some random dude suddenly shouts at them to stop. Bursting out from the trees in a sudden leap, he lands then. Rest and Agni snap their heads around to see what's coming. Who's crashing their conversation right in the middle while the rest are left totally caught off guard by a sudden intruder lunges in and demands to know who the man thinks he is. Van steps in and shouts at the rest, furious that someone laid a hand on his sister and he looks primed to throw down. While Rest just stands there, completely lost, Estria tries to drag Van back from the edge, but he snaps, telling her to stay out of it. Then his hand clamps onto his sword handle and he draws. He rips his blade free with a sharp metallic scream, and it's crystal clear. He's done messing around. Van drops into a full-on combat stance and then he demands a duel, only to make things feel even more hopeless for the rest. Totally clueless about what's going on, Van finally explains, in his country, you don't just marry. You have to be strong enough to earn it. So he's about to test whether Rest is really worthy of Estria, right? As everything suddenly goes wrong. Fail. The maid lunges in, snaps, what the hell do you think you're doing to Lord Rest? And Van. Suddenly, everything gets yanked off course, and he shoots the little shrimp a question. What does she want with him? No matter what, Fail won't back down and declares that she'll be the one to take Rest's place and fight him. Van gets hit with the challenge so hard he can't even react. If the Warrens can't stop it, then it's on her because getting hurt is ultimately her own doing. So Fail just strolls up to him while he's standing there, stuck waiting. Anya and Tareen start panicking, blurting that they absolutely can't do this, and Rest lunges in to stop it, because this whole situation screams too dangerous from a mile away. Fail's locked in for the final round, shouting to Van that he's got one last chance to quit. She gets even more cocky, then dares him to attack from any angle he wants. Then she bursts forward at full speed, screaming that she's coming to take him down. The whole crew totally breaks down, screams at the top of their lungs, staring in disbelief only to see Van flat hit the ground on his back in an instant. Agni barely had time to say, "Fail, you were supposed to hold him back." Van is sprawled on the ground, frozen in total shock, while Turin stands nearby, staring like, is he gonna be okay after a hit like that? He's still stuck on the fact that he lost, but Fail just shrugs it off and smirks. Piece of cake, as she turns and starts walking away. Van finally jerks upright, totally baffled, and blurts, "Wait, what just happened?" Because it all ended before he could even blink. Anya watches him crumple under the struggle and flat out says, "I warned you this was a terrible idea." And then, right as he keeps falling apart, turns out, Fail is dangerous for one brutal reason. She's Kyra's only student, and she's mastered an insane amount of martial arts. Hardly anyone can even stay in her lane in a real fight. She's on a totally different level than the rest of the world. So she walks right back over, desperate to check if he's okay, and can. Van can barely even move to stand, yet he just locks eyes on her, staring like he's seeing her for the very first time. And just as he's still gasping for air, Fail shuts the rematch idea down hard. Then Van snaps into a stiff formal pose and roars at her to marry him, dead serious. Like there's no joke at all, leaving everyone stunned. He just froze in place, eyes blank, utterly stunned by the sudden proposal. The whole crew just stands there, blinking in confusion, because the rest is totally gone, while Agni's stuck, wondering what's wrong with that sibling. And outside that house everything looks calm, but inside, it's pure chaos. Back at the table, Estria scrambles to fix the mess by blurting out an apology for how badly her brother just freaked everyone out. So Van finally speaks up and admits he basically let his emotions steamroll him in that exact moment. A skilled set of hands rubs the back of his head, and he can't help but burst into laughter. He shrugs it off and says he was genuinely surprised, telling them not to worry, but Van refuses to fold. He stares straight ahead and insists he still hasn't given up. Not yet. And he sets a brand new deal. If they fail, he won't let it slide. If she won't marry him, then she'll have to take him in as her apprentice instead. Fail just freezes for a beat, finger pressed to her chin, trying like crazy to make sense of what this guy is even saying. She finally blurts out that she doesn't really understand this whole apprentice deal, but she's totally down to stay friends. And that's when. And then he just totally loses himself in pure joy as he makes his choice. So he decides it, and that basically locks the deal. He's officially her apprentice from here on out. Van gets all fired up and declares, "From today on, I'm calling you Fail Master." Right as Agni stares at that guy with a deadpan look, she realizes these two aren't just different, they're on totally separate levels. Taran just giggles, takes a sip of her tea, and says it's honestly pretty great seeing everyone click, yeah, even with everything swirling out of control. Koratoko and another island resident pop up right then, showing up just to say hi, and the guy straight up asks the crew if they're gonna stay here and if they're planning to sleep the night too. He urges them to stay the night for sure, saying Koratoko would be over the moon to have them around. Then, out of nowhere, the holy beast bursts in with a sharp chiming announcement, claiming it's been watching the whole thing unfold, and it straight up says, "I've got a mountain of things to talk about," and it plans to sit down with the Mabes later. Rest bursts into laughter, and then he goes, "You know the holy beast? That thing loves these insanely long tales like it's got pages to spare." And he laughs, saying those tales would honestly make the perfect lullaby. But the beast isn't amused. It snarls, Tell. He brushed it off way too casually after being that rude. The holy beast makes it painfully clear it'd rather play with the maids than rest, especially since it's not even dark yet. So Rest is basically left with nothing but Korotoko stops the moment dead, and while everyone just stares in confusion, he blares that it's finally time to move. So the girls break off for the night. Estria tells Lord Rest she'll see him tomorrow, and then quickly makes sure she gets a proper goodnight in before the moment drags on. The holy beast spots them slipping away and charges after them, and Rest blurts out, "Should we go too?" But one of the girls snaps at the beast to stay put, mostly because Bale is already hyping the idea that the beast could join them for a bath. But the holy beast snaps back, screaming that it's absolutely not getting in then. They all move on to the next part. The next day rolls in and Rest spends hours chatting with the whole village. He storms to the village chief and demands the real story behind the island's history, and he kicks things off by firing a question at the old guy. Just how long has this village actually been standing? And if any outsider besides Estria and her crew ever managed to reach this place after all that Rest is what finally clicks. For the chief, he's not just someone on this island anymore, he's the new lord. It's a wild hit to the head, but from everything he's heard so far screams one thing. This village is way wilder than he ever expected, because the chief just told him it's a refuge for people hunted down and driven out by the pureblood elves, and he tells Rest that he must have pulled off all that trouble himself just to land here. Rest shrugs it off and cuts him off, saying it wasn't like that at all. He actually planned his own exile, and since he's not fighting through it anymore, it's barely even a big deal. So he thanks the old man for laying the village's history bare, and then after he's finally heard the whole, Rest tells the chief he's ready to explore the rest of the island, then asks straight up if they've got his back. And right there, the chief doesn't just hear him, the chief practically beams as he agrees, then turns to Rest and says they'll gladly back him up with anything he needs. The whole squad crowds into the village house, trading looks as they scramble to decide their next move. Rest calls out to Estria, telling her he's been thinking about making his way to the cove, where her group first hit the shore, and he leans in, asking if she'll guide them there. When Estria's face lights up with a huge smile, she says she'd love nothing more than to show them the way. Then Van barges in to brag about how gorgeous the place is, even saying they can go for a swim, and that totally lights the fuse in File, firing him up instantly. Bale starts pacing, wondering what this trip is really about, and demands to know how long they're going to be stuck on this stretch before they finally hit the cove. Once Rest realizes they've got to move fast, he warns them. If they're late, Kieda will definitely start freaking out. Right then, Korotoko bursts in through the doorway and speaks up. He asks. He presses for answers. Are we still heading to the cove to investigate or what? And right then, he steps up to help, telling Rest, I'll go ahead and warn Kieda that the whole crew's heading home late. Estria pauses, staring at him in calm silence, and quietly thanks him for helping her out the other day. Rest looks a little freaked out by the plan. He tells Korotoko, yeah, I get it. Your help means a lot. But then he shuts it down. He can't let him head back alone. A weird unicorn suddenly bursts its head through the window, locks eyes with the whole group, and straight up asks Kieda if the girl is a maiden. Agni doesn't even try to hide her disbelief. She locks eyes with the horse and snaps whether it's been caught eavesdropping on their conversation again, but the unicorn doesn't care one bit. He flares up all sparkly and dramatic, then shrugs and says, guess I've got no choice, I'm coming with you. He starts bragging that every maiden everywhere is jealous of him, then suddenly cuts himself off and admits he's getting distracted. The unicorn whips around and tells Korotoko, hop on my back, and the kid's eyes go wide as he blurts, calling him a sacred beast. Then the horse starts flexing, bragging that it can fly anytime it wants with zero trouble from those Slata flowers. Anmu catches all of this and admits, yeah, I'm starting to respect you a little. Then she locks eyes with him. Right as she's about to, she locks eyes with him and demands he make sure Korotoko is taken care of perfectly. That unicorn practically preens with pride as he gets ready to unleash everything he can do. He tells everyone, "Leave it to me," then launches off like a rocket. And suddenly he's moving way faster than anyone ever expected, with all that momentum behind him. With everything finally settled, the whole crew rallies and heads toward the cove together. The sun blazes over those towering cliffs as their huge exploration mission finally kicks into motion. They slam to a rocky opening, and someone yells, "This is the exact cave that spits you out by the water." Rest is buzzing with questions like, how on earth did the official investigation team overlook a place like this? Rest stares at the gigantic stone archway and decides it's too important to ignore, so the whole group, he strides in, then checks the local map lord's manor lies miles past the mountains. While the village is ringed by, they slog through thick flower pollen and slip into a dangerous monster's nest, cutting deeper along a winding underground passage that keeps leading them toward the coastal inlet. Because the map screams that this place is packed with magic-absorbing ore and volcanic vents, and it's all leading to, right in this tricky maze of water. Because it all funnels straight into the great maelstrom of Nart. As they push deeper into the cavern, someone screams a warning. Watch your step, because it's getting really dangerous fast. Pitch black van lunges into the front, torch blazing, while everyone else grips a lantern up high so the maids and Estria can finally see where they're going. Rest cranes his neck at the jagged walls. And yeah, this place feels like a massive maze, like they're about to get trapped in every turn. But Fan just smirks and tells Rest, "Don't sweat it. I've got the entire route memorized." Turns out, the guy, he's just as reliable as he is strong. Then they power down the last set of stone stairs, and Van finally blares, "We're here." Finally, the crew barrels into the underground lake and Fail blurts out, "Man, that water looks awesome." Rest takes one look around, then asks the whole crew if they should change into their gear right now. Everyone's buzzing with hype. Fail throws her hand up and screams like, "Yee-ha-sens," because she's about to kick the fun into overdrive. As Tareen smiles to herself, she blurts that she's so glad she took the time to sew swimsuits for the whole group, because she's got a serious weakness for cute clothes. And with that massive cavern glowing overhead, Fail doesn't hesitate. She yells that she's going for a swim, and then she rockets into the sky with a wild, massive leap. No wonder, because everyone knows she's the strongest maid, and she's about to prove it. And she smashes into the water with a massive splash. From the edge, Van's jaw drops, and he practically gushes to his master about how insanely awesome he is for bringing. Rest and Agni just stand by the shore, soaking it all in. But on the side, Estria finally clocks it. She's got a little bit of a wardrobe malfunction. She spots the string on her top has snapped undone. Tareen steps in and shows Estria exactly how to tie it, so it won't budge, promising her it'll never come loose if she follows her way. Making Estria absolutely stunned, she tells Tareen that she truly knows her stuff when it comes to clothes. Estrella glances back over her shoulder with a shy little smile and asks Resto how she looks in her new gear, even though she has zero clue what to do. Even though she's tougher than she looks right now, she just looks like totally adorable. Rest just keeps nodding along, like he's right there with you, and he tells her she looks insanely cute, and that sweet compliment sends her blush skyrocketing as he blurts out that Agni and the other girls look absolutely amazing in theirs too. It's a really sweet moment for everyone, but just wait, because right after that, it all goes sideways. But Agni's squirming with embarrassment, because the girl he's with is you. Turns out that usually stone calm guy is actually a pretty terrible swimmer, and Estria refuses to let that kill the fun. She snaps her gaze back and asks Rest, right there, if he's going to dive into the water with them. But Rest stays locked in, and he leans in to tell her he has to finish surveying this inlet section first. Estria locks eyes with him and asks, "Is there anything the two of us can do to help?" Rest pauses for a heartbeat then, and he decides to jump at their offer, telling the girls he's got one little favor to ask. And both of them, Anmi and Estria, waste zero time. They both agree to jump in right away, and they're already geared up to hit the road from the campsite, ready to get to work, leading to the three of them huddled at the water's edge in that glowing cave. And right there, huge fish just drifted past like they own the place. He stared out over the water and just knew that the fountain hole the village chief was talking about had to be right past this lake. Then he leans in and tells the girls the truth. That monster hole gulps seawater and fish straight out of the ocean, spits it all into the lake. Meaning, so yeah, same story all over again for them, just in different clothes. For them and the half-elves who call this place home. As his rest points out that every single one of them washed up here after the sea spat them out. And that's when he snaps the clues together and it hits him. Naut's massive whirlpool has to be the key. It has to be the key that links everything to this cave. And as he studies the tunnel layout, he realizes, yeah, people call this a cove, but it's really, once you drop into it, it's basically a one-way ride, no chance to crawl back out. Reboot stands there, locked in his head, realizing the whole setup feels nothing like what he expected from some ordinary fountain he's seen 1,000 times before. As he cranes his neck and watches the ceiling blast water down, a chilling thought hits him like, there's something, anything, lurking behind it. A mysterious power lurks inside those jets, so he yanks out this weird tool, grins like he's got a plan, and starts probing the entire area right away. Odni stares at the gadget and demands what it is, and Rest blurts out that it's a spatial magic, the measuring device he snatched from the village chief. Rest says the royal research team used to own this device, and yeah, it was completely wrecked, so the chief told him you can keep it, as long as he could fix up whatever had been messed up with his mad crafting skills. Odni's eyes widen with pure confusion as he blurts out, wait, why is a regular village chief asking me that? So Rest breaks it down. Those 3 royal team members got slammed, got injured, and that's why they ended up without gear. Left behind on this island, they watched everyone else sprint for home when the government called, while those 3 just got left behind because the folks from Uteral village stepped in and saved them, so they ended up staying put and forging brand new lives. Rest glances through the viewfinder and says the chief still sees that old device and memento as something the people left behind. He orders Agni to plug the sensor in right there, but shoots a warning first: this magic meter won't give a reading instantly. It takes its sweet time. Vale snaps into realization that Callie is tied to those researchers, and Rest bursts out laughing when he clocks that Koratoko had a hand in all of it. Rest stares at the gadget, and it finally clicks their link. To the past is exactly what made the village accept them. Rest leans in and tells the group, yeah, back in the kingdom, it's totally normal for anyone to get treated like they're suspicious. Onni can't shake the feeling that something's off, while Fail is straight up living her best life, kicking through the water, screaming her head off. And Rest starts to, and told them the real reason everyone here got targeted. Because he heard it straight from the chief himself, who said the elves were split into 2 groups. The ones who want to keep everything pure and for anyone brave enough to mix. The purity group is packed with elves who live forever, and they refuse to marry anyone but their own. But then there's the other side, the ones who kicked off the half-elf line for real, tearing themselves away from home and just so their families could keep growing wild. Because even though they all began as one people, the whole race finally tore itself apart like this. And the reason it all happened in the first place was because every one of them was terrified their whole kind was about to vanish for good. One day, it just showed up, right after that choice. So the group that mixed ended up birthing kids who don't live nearly as long, and they've got a ticking clock to go with it. And they basically stripped magic down to almost nothing, and that's how the half-elves we know today were born. The elf purity faction eventually swelled until it reached a point where it just couldn't hold back anymore. That's how they spread so many they turned into the majority across the whole world. And then they unleashed that power just to crush the weaker. Those shorter-lived half-elves were treated like absolute trash. It got so ugly that the purity faction went full villain mode, swearing half-elves were basically born to be slaves for the real elves. And they started pressuring other countries to seize every half-elf they could find and hand them over without question. Rest cuts him off and says his own. The whole country felt it too, and with that kind of pressure bearing down, They passed a law that demanded every half-elf be snatched up and reported on the spot. And yeah, the whole thing was brutally messed up. That restless energy thinks the elders in Udarao village were already fully ready for whatever came next. They could feel it coming the day when people from the kingdom would finally arrive. Storms right up to their doorstep and shows up. Onni finally cracks the whole picture, and Rest just nods along like, yeah, that's exactly how it went down. Rest realizes the people who ditched their lives for this island weren't running for nothing. They were chasing freedom and trying to get away from the hate. Rost can't stop thinking about it. This island is official kingdom territory, and now he's been handed the Lord's power. But even though he's technically supposed to tell them that, now they're his subjects, then it hits him. He can't bring himself to say things like that to them. Rest drills into his head that he didn't wash up here by chance. He came to this island, hunting his own freedom, no one else's. So yeah, it feels brutally wrong to just spin around and start ruling people like you own them, snatching away their freedom. He goes silent for a beat, eyes distant like he's wrestling with something huge in his head, scrambling to find a way for everyone to share the same roof without blowing up a single life. He's back in the shop, grinning as he grabs his tools and jumps right into action, still searching for the perfect answer, and yeah, he hasn't found it yet. Antony leans in, grins, and tells him she's certain he'll crack it, because if anyone can figure it out, it's the one running the show. Bale doesn't just claim it. He insists he's a genuinely kind lord who actually cares about every single thing that happens to his people. Rest slams the camera device into finishing mode and wipes the last bit of work clean, and heaped thanks to Acne and Estria for jumping in and helping him. But just as he's getting going, a few voices from down the beach shout his name, and it stops him dead in his tracks. Van and Fail burst in, absolutely electric, hauling in gigantic nets packed with the fresh fish they just caught. And since there's food for everyone, Val pretty much calls it time to pause, chow down, and recharge. Sydney shoots right in and takes over the cooking, promising everyone she'll get the fish sizzling on the grill. The rest of the crew jumps in to help, and together they whip up a cozy little campsite right there on the sand. As soon as the food hits the table, Van leans in and grills. Rest did that measuring tool of his snag. Anything interesting or what? And right when the rest kicks in, things go deadly serious, because the magic here is way stronger and far more dangerous than the elders ever warned about. Van is completely baffled because he'd always believed tons of magic power was supposed to be a blessing, not a curse. Rest leans in and says if you can't handle it, this is basically the same as getting completely wasted on strong liquor. Just stronger. The crew keeps lounging by the fire, and one villager blurts out that since they aren't magic users, they can't sense a thing. Rest just nods, wipes in a grilled fish bite, and then says they've got to go report it to the village chief. He jumps up and tells everyone they'll head back the moment they're done eating, and later, they're right there back at the chief's place. In the village, the chief clocks that Rest's magic has exploded way stronger than before, and he immediately thanks Rest for scouting the beach magic. But he snaps the village off guard with one brutal word. At last, he feels safe enough to officially take his place as their ruler. Rest's jaw drops. He blurts out to the chief, asking if he's truly fine with making a decision that massive, that fast. The chief just shrugs it off like it's nothing, saying, yeah, we're all outcasts anyway, so where else are we supposed to go? And they were ready to fall in line and obey the second a lord from the kingdom stepped onto the scene. The chief finally cracks. Yeah, they were already braced to go to war the moment the new ruler flipped the script, was revealed as a ruthless tyrant. Rest flashes a shaky grin, swears he'll do his best not to morph into some power-hungry tyrant, but the village chief just grins, waving it off like, you've got nothing to worry about at all, no need for a single worry. The chief grips Rest's hand and tells him he can't wait to team up then the moment hits where the rest replies, yeah, the pleasure is all mine. And the maids hover nearby, grinning like proud hawks as the deal finally clicks into place and becomes official. Later, fresh-faced Koritoko finally scores his chance to hop on hops onto the unicorn's back like it's a front row seat to the best day of his life. That 12-year-old kid's eyes go huge with pure excitement as they charge out the door. He suddenly erupts in a shout and jabs his finger toward the horizon, pointing at the unicorn and saying, "It's right there. This is the place we're hunting." And unicorn locks eyes with a sharp stare, says he spots the place, and instantly knows exactly where to head. The magical horse reared up and bucked hard, blasting out a violent rush of wind and dust as they took off. They smack their hooves down hard on the path, right as they complete their wild run through the forest. Korotoko's jaw drops at how they tore across the space, and he blurts to the unicorn that it's insane somehow they got there in the blink of an eye. The magical horse slams to a stop right before the gate, and everyone finally realizes they've reached Rest's mansion. The unicorn's grin drops, and a grim stare locks in as he thinks about Kieta waiting inside. But as they head up, Korotoko suddenly spots a familiar face and shouts Kieta's name, which makes the old man snap. "Who are you?" Kieta snaps his head up. It's young Lord Korotoko, and he blurts out if Rest is with him. Right away, the unicorn is completely baffled and blurts out where Kieta went, because he can't find him anywhere. Spot a maiden nearby, anywhere at all. The 65-year-old man just stares him down and, with terrifying calm, starts explaining that it's actually Kieta. And then, out of nowhere, the horse's eyes go totally dead for a split second as the full weight of reality finally smashes into him. As the unicorn just stands there, struck dumb, Korotoko brushes past him and leans in to tell Kieta he's got an update on Rest. Kieta nods like he finally gets it. Then they march straight into the house to hash everything out. Korotoko barrels through everything Kieta missed, then tells him how the crew took a breather and set off to explore the cove. He tells the old man not to fret, because Rest has everything covered, and then the maid shows up with a bundle of flowers, like a sweet little gift from the heart. Kia takes it all in, but doubt still flickers in his eyes, so he snaps his focus too. He leans in and tells the unicorn, just being in the presence of a legendary holy beast is a massive honor. The old man dishes out compliments like they're priceless treasures. People started chiming in, saying the horse has a wild aura. Then the unicorn basically ate it all up. Kieta leans out the window and blurts out, "So you willing to? Still down to chill with you and spill a few wildlife stories." And it totally catches the unicorn off guard. But Kieta pushes back like, "I swear I really want to hear this. Listen to whatever he's about to say." The unicorn practically bursts with joy as he starts bragging his holy status then. Korotoko just stands there, locked on them like he's waiting for the perfect moment, totally baffled by how these two are clicking so fast right as the sun slips behind the trees. By the time the words finally stop, the night has swallowed them whole. Rest and the girls finally stumble back to the house. Everyone's piling out, yelling at the top of their lungs, "We're home!" And Kieta is already in the hallway, waiting like a guard of honor to greet Lord Restback. The old man beams at the whole crew and tells them, with real warmth, that he's just thrilled they all came back safe and sound. Rest lets out a nod, then leans in and fires a question. "Kieta, did everything go smoothly at the house while I was gone?" And Kieta, the editor, admits that most of his time wasn't spent fighting at all. He was just burning hours in conversation with the holy beast. The old man pauses, replaying his talk with the unicorn, and admits it was a truly unforgettable, mind-blowing moment, since he finally got to soak up legendary stories straight from that creature. Anyi's got that full-on skeptical stare, basically asking, "Wait, did you really talk to him?" Teasing you with that same unicorn again, but he just smiles and tells them, "I'm so happy you two get along so well." Kieta drops the bomb that there's a few crucial things they have to talk through, and that's when Rest's head starts spinning, wondering what on earth they're about to discuss. While Korotoko's sprawled out and passed out on the sofa, Tareen urges them to keep the conversation going over tea, and Rest tells him he's in, and Turin immediately hurries off to get everything ready. Anni declares she's diving into the food and tells Fail to help her, and Fail is totally, absolutely down for it. To pull off a steaming spread of cream stew packed with fresh veggies and a homemade quiche hot from the oven. Anji looked a bit shy as she explains she used everything they'd brought back from Utero village. The food absolutely crushes it. Both Fail and Rest rave that it's delicious and straight up mind-blowing. Rest tells Kieta that Koritoko's father was the one who planted and raised all these vegetables. Then he goes on to say he's been mulling over one big plan building a road that links their homes straight to the village. He points out that even the holy beast can pull off an instant trip. Walking there is pure misery. It takes about half a day just to get there. Rest slumps back in his chair and says, real calm, if we can, could dart between the village and they slipped into the mansion with zero trouble and they'd still have the fucking. To have fresh vegetables on the table every single day. No excuses. On me flashes a grin and says it would make her. Working in the kitchen was way easier. But Rest leans in over the tea and snacks, telling the crew this isn't just about food. There's a smarter route, and it means they can stop for the toilet too. Go find Van, Estria, and little Koritoko. Anytime you feel like it. That's when Rest whips his head around, locks eyes with Kieta, and shoots him a massive excited grin because he's about to ask for a huge favor. He wastes no time. He cuts straight to the point and blurts out. He blurts out that he wants to build a bridge that cuts right through the A. So he breathes that in so they don't trash the forest, then leans in and asks, can you actually do that like for real? Kieta freezes for a split second at the insane idea, then turns to Rest and demands one night to figure it all out. Kieta clocks in immediately and vows he's about to tear through a stack of documents right away. He's gonna go see what they've got, then he'll sweep up whatever construction scraps are still sitting in the main lot. The mansion Rest leans in, saying she's counting on him, and Kieta shoots back, don't worry, I've got it. Like the next breath is a countdown as the very next day slams into place, and Kieta finally lets loose a breath showing off some blueprints and declaring they're almost a perfect match for the bridge race. Rest finally gets a break until Rest looks over the papers and declares it's exactly what he was thinking. And it's like he couldn't even finish the thought because he's dead sure he can pull it off, so he fires up the blueprints, checks every material, and keeps going with his gift as the moment slips away. All right, he kicks it off and tells everyone, we're building the supports from the ground up, then we'll push toward reach. He slams his hand down on the ground, unleashing a massive blast of energy that tears straight through the ground. The unicorn goes rigid, realizing Rest is really just the earth getting absorbed to build a hole, and it can't. And Kieta just stands there, watching it all click into place, and you can tell this is where Rest's craft skill truly starts to shine. Rest steadies his breathing, lifts a hand, and channels his energy to guide the floating stone blocks as they whirled through the sky, and Korotoko and Fele just froze staring up, with their mouths gaping wide. With a thunderclap of magic, the bridge erupts into motion, slamming its pieces into place, and Fele blares out, screaming how incredible he is. And Korotoko jumps in, asking if it's all finished, only for Rest to say, it's not as simple as you think. He leans in and starts explaining that his range is limited, so he's forced to keep running right on the edge of his limits, running it back again over and over. He kept hammering away, crafting again and again, until he finally hit the absolute limit of what he could build from that very spot, right there in front of him. Tareen watches as he goes full focus. Then she leans in and says they're all cheering him on, loud and proud, and Agni jumps in, letting him know the snack stash is already stacked and waiting for him. For his break, Rest keeps working. Minutes slip by, and he finally snaps the main supports for a massive bridge stretches out so huge, even the unicorn can't hide its surprise, admitting he'd basically treated Rest like it was some space cadet joke. Rest is grinning, telling the group he finally pulled off a compliment until Agni shuts it down instantly, saying it's straight. She's not buying a word of it, because to her, that wasn't a compliment at all. He barrels past the shade and yells that he'll go all in until the entire project is finally finished. The bridge starts snapping into place piece by piece, stretching all the way from Uterau village through the dark forest. He hauled everything all the way back to the manor, and right nearby loomed the massive Starview Tower. Right like that, the bridge is finally finished. Now everyone's flooding over it, hauling wagons and supplies like it's go time. But, right between the two spots, one of the elf villagers swings in with fresh vegetables, drops them off. Ani meets him halfway, grinning as she points out she just pulled a fresh batch of pancakes from the oven, so he doesn't even get to finish his sentence yet. He pushed some toward him with a grin, like a thank you for everything. Fail finally finds a moment to rest, and he asks if he can lend a hand fixing up the house. Then he just grins and says it's nothing at all. Estria bursts in with pure excitement and swings her hand like she's greeting the whole world. She rides the waves, shouting for everyone to rest then, and Van's right beside her, screaming that he finally showed up to see his master while. Rest wraps them both up again like it's finally letting them breathe. Everyone in the crew gathers in the forest clearing right at the edge of that brand new stone wall. With the evening stars blazing overhead, that massive bridge now looms over the whole landscape like it owns the sky. A bunch of dwarves scrutinize the construction from top to bottom, and one of them blurts out that it's seriously a pretty fascinating structure. In the kitchen, a piping bag comes alive, squeezing with precision to stuff fresh pastries with. With Agni in charge of the cooking, he leaned in and ordered his student to handle it with absolute gentleness. Turns out she's teaching Estria, the Empire's third princess, who's doing everything she can to keep up. But Estria clamps down on that bag with a death grip, and Agni screams as everything detonates, and cream blasts through the air in a total chaotic disaster. Estrella stands there, doused in cream, and practically confesses she definitely went way too hard with the force. And the second she sees what happened, she blurts out apologies for the mess, looking absolutely wrecked about the whole situation. The princess lets out a heavy sigh and blurts that making sweets is just way too hard, so Agni leans in and tells them straight up, beast folk like you and me are actually twice as strong as regular humans, which is why, for them, doing delicate work like this is a non-stop fight just to get it right. Estrella's voice cracks as she gets overwhelmed. Then she blurts out that if she keeps pushing at this pace, she'll never become a bride worthy of someone like Lord Rest. Ani locks onto the word strength for a heartbeat, then throws it all away and starts cooking up a totally new plan until she finally hits on a brilliant idea and tells Estria she's cracked the better plan. She blurts out, "Why not bake bread instead of all these sweets?" And right away, Estria tilts her head, looks up, and echoes the idea back. Estria lifts her eyes full of hope and practically pleads with Agni, asking if he truly believes she can pull this off. Ani gives her a sharp nod, then tells her straight up that kneading bread dough burns serious muscle power. It might be the perfect fit for her, because the moment Estria hears that, she freezes mid-breath, completely caught off guard. She's all in on the idea, and she straight up asks Agni, "Please teach me how to do it." Ani tells her to hang tidies, heading out to grab every ingredient and get them ready to start. They finally get to work, and Agni bursts out cheering her on, saying that the dough already looks amazing. Looks awesome, and I swear I'll keep kneading it non-stop. She blurts out that Lord Rest is obsessed with bread, so you just know this is going to make him unbelievably happy. Hearing that makes Estria beam, and she laughs, saying she's just happy he'll like it. She drops her gaze with pure determination and says she wants to become an amazing cook too, because, deep down, she's clinging to one perfect dream, becoming Lord Rest's wife at last. Estria's completely smitten as she watches Lord sink his teeth into the bread, then says the flour from Astoria is surprisingly amazing. Estria blurts a tiny gasp as everything begins to unfold. Things start going sideways fast. Suddenly, the kitchen erupts into chaos, and Agni just freezes there staring like he can't even believe what he's seeing. Stunned by the sheer scale of the disaster, he couldn't even breathe. Agnicide stared at the wreck of the room. They take one look at it and go, "Oh no, this is going to be a long, brutal road ahead." Tareen, the headmaid, bursts in wearing a smile and pitches a totally different plan, asking if Estria decides to switch things up. She wants to make perfume with you, and the idea instantly grants her attention. Right then, she snaps for clarification, and Tareen leans in like, I'm serious, no joking. Turin tells everyone that perfume isn't some random extra, it's a massive part of proper date etiquette, especially when you're headed out with, and there's a gentleman. As she gushes about how satisfying it is to figure things out, Estria can't stop fixating on one thing. She's trapped on the thought of a date. With literal hearts blazing in her eyes, she starts dreaming. They're live streaming her date with Lord Rest and begs Turin, because they're about to drill her on everything she needs to know. A breathtaking fragrance bursts through the house, filling every room too. Turin raises the bottle with a bright grin and laughs. "I finished every drop." The sweetness hits first, then a fresh floral scent blooms and lingers. She's convinced Estrella is the perfect match for a girl like her. Turin shifts the conversation. "So, should we try making one more?" And she cuts off mid-sentence as the moment hangs there, and then leans in, begging Estria to step in and help out. Because it's go time, pumping pedal after pedal just to keep her moving. Estria thumbs through the next batch and shoots a question. What kind of vibe is this new perfume supposed to pull off? Turin lets out a giggle and whispers to her that this scent is pure adulthood. She says it's for the moment a date with a gentleman stops being cute and starts getting real, and that's when you need it. And after everything, they finally end up alone together. Right then, Estria freezes, her mind buzzing with what it actually means to be an adult. Estria's eyes sharpen instantly, like her mind locks onto the idea and turns it into something way more serious. As the day fades, everything snaps back to Estria right where the story gets dangerous. Rest brags about how awesome his day was, and right then, Fail strides up to him. Rest locks eyes with them, serious as thunder, and asks if they can really squeeze in a little more time together. He leans in close, blurts out to her that he really doesn't want to let her go. Catching her leaves her totally speechless. She starts to warn him he shouldn't be doing this, but Rest whips around and flat out cuts her off. No, turns out he's just milking the drama, and Agni watches as Fail gets crushed flat like. This isn't going anywhere, not at all. Elsewhere, a young beast man girl sits outside, surrounded by tiny fluff monsters that look at her like, "You messed up," and they sigh hard. Turin spots her slumped and looking pretty down, then leans in and asks, "What's wrong?" When she sees the girl had totally botched her laundry duty, and it was painfully obvious. The girl blurts out the real reason: she's just too powerful, so every time she touches something, it shatters. Fail listens to the tale, and it hits him hard. So much power doesn't feel heroic at all. It's a non-stop headache. For one wild second, Turin's eyes went wide after he heard that suggestion. That beastman girl grins at Turin and sweetly asks if he can help her haul some laundry. Yeah, it's a little heavy, but she's counting on him. She's totally confident, straight up saying that if the job is just manual labor, she's the one who will step in and help. A few minutes pass and she's already proving she means business. She hoists a giant basket of laundry up over her head, and Turin is absolutely stunned by the help. And you make sure she thanks her for doing such an amazing job. The Beastman girl just waves it off like it's nothing, and then the silence hits. Asks what she should tackle next. Turin asks if she can help fold the clothes, and the girl practically bounces with joy to jump right in. Beaming, he slid the rings over that one special piece of clothing, grinning as he said, "It's actually Lord." The Beastman girl scoots in close and tells him she'll iron out every single wrinkle in the shirt then. And when she starts thinking about how she's holding Lord Rest's clothes, that locked-in focus sparks in her eyes like she can't look away. Clutching the shirt, Estria admits she got a bit sweaty. Then she leans in and starts sniffing the fabric like it suddenly got answers right. As Bennett hits, Rest is standing there, shirtless. She snaps her hands over her face and screams at him, yelling that he shouldn't. He's about to strip down like that in front of a girl, and she's so flustered she can only peek through her fingers. Then everything happens right when she accidentally clamps down on the shirt too hard. The fabric just tears clean in half, and she freezes there, clutching the. She crumples in total defeat, slumps over, and starts blubbering apologies, saying she's useless at helping out, and even worse at practicing to be a bride. To lift her spirits, he sidestepped the mood and reminded her that the bread Estria made is finally done. Tyron flashes a grin, nods, and says, Perfect, let's serve it. Eating something might be the best way to move on, but that fresh bread smell is so intense it's still overwhelming the princess. So don't sweat the shirt, Rest'll patch it up with craft magic like it's nothing. Right then, strides into the room with a huge grin, like the mess doesn't even exist, and immediately starts bragging about how amazing everything smells. Bangora, crown prince of the empire, storms in and admits, "I'm starving," and he says it like the whole room owes him food while the girls just freeze there, utterly lost. Ban locks eyes on their confused faces and shoots. Is something wrong? But Fail lunges into the explanation as Estria panics behind him, grabbing at her words to keep her from spilling anything she shouldn't. Van snaps to an idea and blurts it out. He leans in and reminds Estria she's the princess of the Goral Kingdom, so it's not some huge deal if she can't cook or do laundry. Agni's jaw drops when that comment lands, but he swallows the disappointment and smiles, saying she'd give it her all for the guy she loves. Van asks if that's true. That's actually real, and she doubles down, insisting it 100% covers chores, cooking, laundry, the whole mess. Then she launches into this how and why rant that goes on and on. The thought of making the person she loves smile washes her in pure, blissful warmth. But Van just stares at her with a deadpan face and basically says, "With my sister, that imagination's a little too far-fetched." Bangora snaps at Fail that her imagination has gone completely off the rails, but she just can't let it stop. She won't drop it. She pushes Rest to make her tools that can survive her full strength without snapping under the pressure. Rest couldn't hide her skepticism and challenged her, like, "Are you really sure you want him to forge indestructible tools?" While Agni nods along, saying, "At this pace we're going to run out of gear because no matter how many pots or tools they grab, they burn through them all and leave everything behind. Like the next one is already waiting." He took a breather to check his inventory, normal wood and iron by the tons. But then a new question hit him. What would he even need to craft something that's truly unbreakable? Keita leans in and says, "If they're going all in, Mithril is probably their best shot." Rest's eyes go wide at the suggestion. He sputters, "Wait, you mean the myth? Are you really saying that?" Kieto leans in and tells him, "This isn't just any ore, it's super precious. The perfect material for the job." Kieta finishes his thought and makes it brutal clear. Mithril isn't something you stumble on anywhere. It's a nightmare to hunt down, so Van freezes for a split second. Then it hits him. Like a switch just snapped in his brain. He says he even recalls hearing rumors about it not long ago in Utero Village. He swore the village chief was the one person to talk to if we wanted the real scoop. Agni nods and gives her the thumbs up because they finally got a real lead to chase. Rest practically erupts and demands they bolt right now to hunt down that mithril, and he's pushing for Estria to come with him. Fail starts giggling, pokes at them, and jokes that the entire trip feels like a full-on date. Just like that, the whole crew kicks off their rare ore hunt for real, charging across a massive stone bridge as they head toward it. Kieta grips the reins up front and drives the horses forward at an unwavering, steady clip. Rest told Estria they had to dream bigger, and this was just the start. She should just kick back and enjoy the ride like it's a date. Then she blushes and says she's completely down for it. Bangora proves he's got manners by flat out saying he won't spoil anyone's date. He'd rather hang back and lend a hand to Ree. And the rest of them dove into their chores. So Turin flashes him a huge grin and tells him that adding one more person around, helping out, would be a massive lifesaver. And while they scramble to get things set up, she turns to the group and asks them if they should rush and summon the Holy Beast too to come help them out. She just shrugs and says the Holy Beast is doing perfectly fine right where he's standing this very moment. Estria pipes up and tells everyone, "I've got the lunches Agni gave me," then adds that she even pitched in and helped with the food a bit herself. As they stride toward the village, she's practically glowing with excitement about helping out. And with a grin on her face, Fail barges into the conversation and tells Rest and Estria tell her she'll be their personal servant for the day, because they need her to do just that. It doesn't ruin their big date at all. She's clearly having a blast, teasing both of them like it's her personal sport. Rest smiles and says he's not dreading the help, he's actually excited for it. But the moment he glances toward the front of his mood dips. I can't help but wonder why Kita has to show up right when they're finally trying to steal a romantic moment. He shrugs off the comment and calls out to him instead. Tyron makes sure everyone remembers one thing: the truth behind it all. The real, they're not here for a stroll. They're checking the mithril, and she's dead set on making sure nobody forgets the mission. But Russ thinks she's taking it way too seriously and calls it an investigation. But that's a pretty wild stretch for a guy his whole big plan is nothing but this. Get enough of the met. He stacked the metal to craft some seriously awesome cooking tools for the house. Kieta shuts that casual talk down fast. He slams on the brakes, then demands to know, does he even realize how insane the price of mithril silver is? He says that a single plate made from that stuff is worth so much it could feed a whole family for an entire month. So he starts preaching about this rare metal like it's a dream for adventurers, because it's ridiculously light, and it even bounces magic spells back like it's got its own power. What he's trying to make you understand is this finding. Cracking the code to mine this ore would basically wipe out every single money problem the whole island is drowning in. He pushes through the lecture and tells Rest straight up, if he truly cares about this place's future, he has to take their income seriously. In the back, the whole vibe lifts fast, as someone spots how awesome Fail's snack looks, and she just smiles and nods along like she isn't under even a drop of stress, yelling at him to pay attention. But then Rest just tells him he already knows, like, seriously. The carriage rips forward down the road, pushing onward without slowing. The squad finally barrels into Uterau village, this tiny tucked-away spot that feels like the world forgot it was here. They finally catch up with Koro Toko's father, then boom. The second the conversation turns to mithril, his shock hits like thunder. Turns out, during a fresh scouting run along the coast, they spotted rare ore hiding inside a cave. And that's when the hunt really kicked off. So the whole crew races straight for the cave entrance, ready to rip open whatever they find. Mithril. That stuff is a total game changer because it fights back against magic at its core, and that's exactly why it keeps those terrifying magical monsters from getting anywhere near you. And the local half-elves don't even sweat the mining, because the ore it makes it a nightmare for them to even use their own powers. As they push into the dark cavern, Resto blurts out that the crew's been here before, but he's never once gone this route. Like, he's stepping into unknown territory. Fail bursts into laughter and tells them this dark cave feels exactly like a courage test, right, Estria? Because she's totally picking up that spooky, spine-tingling vibe too. Rest leans in and tells them, back home, they actually have. It's a creepy attraction where people pay to stumble through a dark mansion for pure thrills. He breaks it down how they cast magic to summon fake ghosts and terrify anyone who dares step inside. And Estria starts to think, that sounds like a. Fail bursts in, yells boo, and tries to prove to everyone the best way to yank off a real surprise. It works a little too well because Tareen actually lets out a real scream, and Fail suddenly realizes she may have pushed it way too far. While that chaos brews, Rest whips around to Estria and asks, should we hold hands? This cave is getting pitch black. He flashes her this insanely calm smile, just waiting for her to answer while Estria gets completely flustered and blurts out a yes. Her cheeks flare bright red as they step deeper into the cavern side by side, and just as Estria opens her mouth to speak, her thoughts swallow her whole. She's mostly stuck on one terrifying question: whether she's squeezing Rest's hand so hard it hurts or not. He let the rest sink in, then tightened his grip and adjusted it, just enough to feel natural so he could. He tells her, if you keep holding my hand like this, everything's gonna be okay. Astria just gazes up at him, and he kept going deeper with her, making sure every step left her feeling totally safe in that creeping dark. Kieta clears his throat and sharpens everyone's focus like he's about to drop the most insane thing anyone's heard all day. Something important. He spins around to catch his breath and asks, straight up, for an honest answer about something deeply personal. Demands to know if Rest ever had real dates or game with girls back when he was at the academy. Rest doesn't even blink. He just grins like he's already won. Grins and says he wasn't joking back then. He had plenty of girlfriends. Kiyata sighed, raked a hand through his hair, and stared because this kind of Rest felt nothing like the way his brother Bird ever did it. Rest just throws his head back, laughing, and says his younger brother is way more of a man of integrity than he'll ever be. Vale cuts in with a booming laugh, saying Rest was always the hottest thing then. Brings up a girl named Claire. But Rest looks totally rattled and blurts out who she is. Then Fal snaps back that he'd basically been running for his life, chased by her the whole time. Kita's expression turns stone cold as he snaps to Rest that he can't possibly let a comment like that ghost slide. So Rest just shrugs it off, claims he's noble too, and basically acts like it's no big deal that everyone's suddenly into him. Estria snaps into this terrifying stare, grabs Rest's face, and demands he spill every last detail about his past girlfriends. So tight she's practically squeezing the words out of him until he blurts that he's not just pushing, he's actually hurting him. She yanks her hand back fast, blurts out an apology, and admits the words just slipped out so. Rest tells her to basically stop, because she's just about to say the F line. Just dive into the cave and explore every dark corner. The crew keeps trudging through jagged rocky tunnels, and Kieda charges ahead with a map like it's leading them straight into whatever's next, until he slams into a solid wall and barks out every single. They finally tore through all that distance and landed at the exact spot. Kieda tells them that long ago, when the half-elf ancestors first arrived to, right there at the island's edge, they tore into the ground from the inlet and started carving a tunnel straight through even after they carved and built the land. Old tales swear they still hit a few rough patches along the way. Turns out their mining magic was total trash, so they had to slam the brakes and give up on. Kieda figured the magic flopped because there's a real shot something's off with the spell. Might be mithril hiding in those rocks, but the rest isn't stressing. He tells them to stop hesitating and just charge in. Rest thrusts his hand toward the stone and shouts out, "Heh," calling for its craft magic. And then, boom, everything cuts off mid-blast. A massive blast of energy slams into the wall, blasting the whole cave bright as he starts smashing his way through. Kieda goes wide-eyed as he finally gets it. Rest's gift isn't just special, it's strong enough to swallow mithril whole. And then, Rest can't stop thinking this wild power has to be something the gods handed straight to him. Kieto nods as Rest studies his screen, making it crystal clear he can yank the mithril straight from the earthen wall right to the next part. Tareen says this is exactly what she expects from him, and Rest just cracks up and thanks her. Then she yanks him closer and points out that the cave keeps going way past the hole he tore open. So Rest peeks in and points them onward, telling everyone to go a little farther in and see what's really up ahead. The group strides into a gigantic underground chamber carved straight out of solid rock like the earth itself got split open. Estria snatches up a cup, and Turin spots a plate nearby staring at it like, why is there tableware in a place like this? Kieda finally gets a clear up-close look at He digs into the stuff, and then slams the truth into place. These items are forged from a mithril alloy, and then Rest whips his gaze across all that gear, and his mind instantly wonders, wait, is someone really living down here in the dark? He craned his neck and stared at the sharp rocks looming above him. Hanging from the ceiling, someone blurts, could it just be a mole? But Rest and Tareen pressed on, and they spotted a dark opening ahead, slipping deeper into the cave. Kieda's eyes go wide as he spots something slipping through the shadows. From the pitch-black dark, a creepy gumo noise crawls out then. This short dude with a huge white beard steps right into the scene. Vale starts screaming her lungs out while Rest and Kieda just keep freeing themselves, and Tarin's freaking out like, this is some kind of bearded monster. Rest bolts into a sprint the second the bearded guy starts chasing them with a shovel, and Kieda yells at everyone to get out right now. But then Kieda halts mid-step, because the guy isn't just blabbering. The words hit too close to home, and his mind snaps into panic like, wait, do I know this? If he actually figures out who this is, the bearded man immediately stops mid-swing, and then he cranes his neck, staring up at Kieda. And then Kieda starts tapping his feet in the strange rhythm on the cave floor like he's setting the stage for what comes next, doing this wildly goofy dance in front of the guy like it's a secret code one that was hiding the real truth. Kieda slams his weird foot-tapping routine to a halt and freezes dead still, holding his breath to see if it actually worked. Now Turin and Rest are totally lost, and Rest is bombarding Kieda with the question, what on earth is going on? But the bearded guy just locks eyes with him. Those intense, blazing stare hits like a warning. Zero distractions, just pure rhythm, nothing but rhythm. Rhythm. Kieda stomped his boots across the cave floor, and for a split second, everything went dead quiet, like the cave was holding its breath while the bearded man gives a slow, knowing nod like he finally gets it, while Fail and Turin linger in the back with giant question marks floating above their heads, utterly lost as the truth lands on the group like a punch. Rest blurts, wait, was that really the dwarven language? Kieda nods and confirms this was no random greeting. It was exactly that. He tells me his old adventure buddy was obsessed with that kind of thing. So there's a chance he drilled a few phrases into his memory and somehow nailed them perfectly. He admits he's not good enough to hold a real full-on conversation, but he's pretty sure he finally got They drive home one thing: these two aren't enemies at all. Rest glances at the guy's gear as the cave's mood finally starts to flip. If the shovel just sits there on the ground, bearded man finally snapped. He stops striking for good. He freezes in place, mind racing over every single thing that just went down. Then it hits him hard. He finally understands why that guy was furious. Because this cave wasn't just a cave at all. It was his home. And by absorbing everything, he basically bulldozed it without even meaning to. The bearded man just glares at him, pure annoyance blazing in his eyes, and lets out a frustrated sound like the rest is about to snap. He lunged toward the shattered pieces of the man's bowl, snatching them up fast as his hand moved like it was racing time before. He pours every bit of power into his command, shouts craft, and right on cue, a blinding light erupts to trigger his skill. Spinning through the shards, the bearded man snaps into total disbelief as the fragments start stitching themselves back together. His eyes bulge when the broken plate flips into one solid piece, and without a second thought, he hoists the fixed plate into the air, grinning like he just won, while Rest watches him like, I still don't get it, but as long as you're not mad anymore. More honestly, it'll probably be fine. He's totally zoned out right now, locked in on how shiny and brand new his favorite bowl looks, but Rest is still on edge, beads of sweat pouring as he waits to see if the tension really finally breaks. Rest locks eyes with the guy and snaps, Mr. Dwarf. Like she's clocked it, he's standing there waiting for something big to go down. Right there, looming tall and proud, sits a massive jaw-dropping mithril statue of a warrior. Russ locks eyes on it and blurts, is that really mithril? And you can hear his confusion in every word as, while the group breaks down how dwarves are basically spirits of creation, Kieda pauses for a beat, processing it like it's about to blow his mind. And turns out every dwarf has a master they worship, so that means so they don't become true master craftsmen until they can remake that master statue using mithril. Fail steps up, tells Rest she's convinced the dwarf wants him to be the one to do it. And now they've got a real shot. Keter nods and says, yep, it looks exactly like that, while he points at a heap of broken metal from every failed attempt. Rest looks completely unsure about the whole thing, then blurts out, wait, are you sure it's really okay for me to be the one who makes it? Kieda waves it off and says it's perfect, then pushes the idea that they can even use their own work as an excuse to reclaim the mithril the cave swallowed. Rest takes a breath, then thinks it through for a beat, and tells the group, yeah, I guess you're right about the dwarf. Like he's finally cracked the case. So the crew hustles back to the village, ready to tell everyone exactly what went down in that cave. Goritoko's pumped up to the max and blurts out, "So there really were dwarves down there." And Kieta answers that. That's wildly weird because dwarves usually refuse to linger in the same place for too long. But Kieta shoots back, pointing out that they're not just here for show. Their presence means something more. Proof that the whole place is one colossal mithril vein, all packed together like a hidden fortune. Moving on, Kieta watches as the rest hands him a brand new. Anmi slides the new item over to Estria and, mid-explanation, reveals it's a tool of Forge G. A mithril frying pan gleams in the light. Estria grins and says it's so brutal and unbreakable that even she can't crack it. But the second she leans on it even a little, the metal folds and bends like it's nothing but paper. Estria and Fail just freeze, staring at the ruin in total disbelief, because the mithril crumbles so fast it feels impossible. Kieta stares at the warped pan and blurts out, He finally clicks, and that's when Rastal leans in and snaps. "What do you mean?" Kieta snaps into a serious stare and tells him straight up that what Rest forged isn't some run-of-the-mill mithril alloy. It's the payoff of Rest's crafting skill. Automatic sorting kicks in on its own. He painstakingly separated every last piece of iron and tossed aside all those random metals too. He yanked out every last impurity, leaving nothing behind, refining the ore until it turned into super high purity mithril silver. She's totally blown away and calls it incredible. But Rest just stares at her and asks, like, "Is it really that big of a deal?" Kieta glances at the stacks of glowing metal and tells Rest that with his power and this island, they've got exactly what it takes. They pulled off the impossible and got their hands on mithril silver, then watched the price go absolutely insane, building something that's going to become an unstoppable treasure for what comes next. The explosive future of the Kalial territory. Even with the big news hitting hard, Rest just lets out a tired sigh and admits he's not really feeling the hype, so Fail snaps at him for that weak reaction. Rest shot a sideways look, stuck on the thought that even after they'd nailed a literal mithril mine, there's no way they keep digging unless they can sell the idea to everyone else and get them on board. Rest stares up at the night sky and says, "If I were a dwarf, I'd probably spend my whole life lounging around doing nothing, which is why I tell Kata Sai, that laid-back mindset. That's exactly what I expected from you." Inside the mansion, Tareen yanks petals from a flower, whispering love and hate under her breath as she goes. She clings to the very last petal while Fail just stands there, staring as she acts completely unhinged. Tareen's face blooms red as she blurts out giggles, heart-thumping while she wonders out loud if it actually means he loves her. Fail tries to grab her attention and figure out what's wrong, but Agni just sits there watching the whole mess in absolute, gut-wrenching silence. Rest strides into the room, waves at Tareen, and asks if she can kick off some tea for him. Tareen stays stone still like a statue, so Rest blurts her name again while Fail watches. Panic written all over her face. Fail clocks that Turin isn't good for anything right now, and jumps in like, "I'll make the tea." And Turin's like, "Yeah, that's fine, go ahead." As Fail storms off, Rest whips around to Agni and demands to know what in the world could have happened to Turin to snap like that. Anmi starts laying out the whole situation to Rest and tells him straight up that she knows every detail of what's been going on. It all kicked off last night. Tareen slipped out to grab herbs for the house, and while she was out, she caught sight of a dark figure standing alone by the waterfall, and curiosity snapped in like a trap. So she ducked behind the bushes and shouted like, "Is someone there? Show yourself." There was this shirtless, rock-hard muscle guy, just standing there in the moonlight, and Turin couldn't tear his eyes away. That's when the man finally spotted her and immediately blurted out a frantic apology for the... Tyreen shot out her hand to grab him mid-step, blurted her name, and demanded he wait right there before he could leave. She didn't stop there. She straight up turned to the mysterious stranger and demanded to know what his... He stared at her, totally stunned, and before he could even answer, he snapped, "Forget we ever met." Tareen just stood frozen, her face blazing bright red after that one single interaction. He tells Tareen to shrug it off like a nightmare, forget the whole thing, and move on, and with a quick goodbye, he bolts away, leaving Tareen stunned as she blurts his name after him. She just stands under the trees, eyes wide and dazed, still trying to catch up with how fast everything just exploded. A blush blooms across her cheeks as she can't stop asking herself, was that guy a ghost, a phantom, or something worse? But then it hits her, this has to be real, because her heart keeps slamming around like it's trying to escape. Back at the house, Agni wraps up the tale for rest, and Fail rushes in with tea for him. The whole thing is wild as hell. It's got that storybook vibe, and he can't stop wondering if anyone on that island is actually living up to that description. She admits she's never seen a guy like that around here before. Then she freaks out. Fail starts to wonder if someone like that truly exists, or if Tyron just made the whole thing up in his head. Tyron's still stuck in the whirlwind, trying to make sense of it all while she insists that what she saw wasn't some silly dream, it was real. She even snatches the button the guy dropped and holds it up like hard proof. Agni just stares at her and says it's painfully clear. Torian's completely caught feelings for that handsome stranger, and Estria practically bursts with excitement, thinking this whole thing sounds like the most beautiful story ever. She leans in, presses for the juicy details, and Turin lights up talking non-stop as their conversation keeps rolling. The sun starts sinking behind the house, and the whole place goes eerily quiet as evening settles in. Animal pens. Agni bursts out to tell the birds it's finally dinner time. She watches them swarm the food, and it hits her somehow. They've grown a ton, and since they're growing fast, she figures she'd better start naming them all pretty soon. She just grins at how adorable they are, while behind a glass some random guy strolls past the window. A light-haired young man lurks in the shadows, jaw set tight, looking dead serious. Agni catches a glimpse of him, and her expression instantly goes stone-cold blank. She whips back, points at him, and demands, "Who the heck are you?" While the guy strolls into the room like he owns the place, calm as ever. He strides into the light like a complete stranger, yet those same familiar clothes are hanging on his body. She leans in and asks straight up if that's really Master Kita. When he hears it, his eyes light up like, "Yeah, you caught me." And he starts to reveal what he actually has. And dude, this is gonna take forever to explain. While the sun blazes overhead above the farm, he takes in the whole situation. Agni snaps, roaring that he's got a secret power to make himself young again. Then the guy casually goes, "Yeah, that's exactly it." Kieta admits he hasn't told a soul since he first started working for Lady Alyssa. Just thinking back on, his old self admits this is the first time he's ever been trapped like this, and he can't snap back into his real form. Kieta leans in and admits the truth. He's been secretly using his gift to slip into a younger form anytime manual labor comes knocking. And then he holds up his hand and admits that lately his power hasn't been acting right at all. Stands nearby, then blurts that Kieta's gift must have run wild right as a unicorn bursts in to tell them, "This happens to humans all the time once they start getting old." The unicorn shrugs and admits it's still a gift anyone would kill for. And Agni is left utterly speechless, blown away by everything that's happening. Agni snaps back to his senses and blurts, "Wait, who am I? And where did I come from?" And right then, a title slams onto the screen. Asterisk, "The Holy Beast Unicorn." He drops it like it's nothing. "Yeah, I saw the whole thing." Then it drops out of the sky, and Agni instantly recoils because that's just totally disgusting to him. Rest eyes the creature and tells it, "Honestly, you're pretty damn knowledgeable for a holy beast." The unicorn locks eyes with Kieta and tells him to chill out, because he should soak up this youth while he still can. Kieta slams the idea down on the spot, insisting he can't do that because it'll mess with his everyday duties. Kieta finally quits hiding it. He decides to come clean and tell Rest and the whole crew exactly how his gift works. But he looks totally overwhelmed, scrambling for the perfect words to say because everything feels too heavy. A unicorn cuts in right away, blurting that no matter what Tyron's Saw watched Kieta's body jerk and react on its own after he unleashed his power. Andy points out if Tyron realizes that her huge crush is actually just Kieta, she's about to get absolutely crushed. He admits it's the very last thing he wants. He can't even handle the thought of seeing her like that. Someone shoots back that, "Yeah, That's a solid point. But the mess they're in right now still has to be faced. The unicorn tells Kieta to ditch the danger and find a hiding spot. Let his body reset back to normal. Just as the door blasts open and Tareen storms in, she locks eyes with Kieta and growls that she finally found him. Kieta just freezes solid, utterly blindsided by the moment. She's standing there, right in front of him. Agni and the unicorn lock eyes, utterly stunned into silence, because their plan to hide him collapsed completely. Tareen locks eyes with the young man's stand. She freezes there, tells Lord Rest, "This is the one I've been searching for." And then the whole moment takes off, thinking about the one guy Turin's got feelings for. While Fail just can't let go of him, she keeps spiraling like she's stuck on why. Kieta tries to play it cool, flashes that confident nod, and confirms he's the guy. Then Turin slams him with, "This is a huge, I can't believe I finally get to meet him again. What an honor." Rest steps right in to greet the newcomer on Aldoba Island, claims he's the lord of the place. Rest Kale then, but Agni starts freaking out. She stares at Ray like he's one bad breath away from blurting out the truth about who this guy really is. She storms right up, jabs her finger at him, and declares to everyone that he's none other than Lord Kieta, and she scrambles to explain that there's a real reason he looks so different right now. Tareen just shrugs it off with a laugh, leans in, and asks Agni what in the world she's talking about, because she's absolutely sure that person can't possibly be Kieta. Tareen points at him and says, "That's not nearly how young Kieta looks," while Agni keeps insisting over and over that no matter how you stare, it's absolutely Kieta. The group finally starts moving inside because even the silence says they shouldn't just stand there and waste time chatting, and they should all ditch this and go grab some tea instead. Anmi keeps his eyes locked on the crew as they heads inside, staring in disbelief as Kieta got dragged away and snaps to the truth right now. Only she and Lady Agni know that the guy is Kieta. The unicorn scoots closer, grabs a cloak of quiet with its whisper, and tells them, "This is a tiny secret meant only for the two of them." But Agni won't have it. He snaps at him to stop spitting out those disgusting words right now. The unicorn leans in and tells her she shouldn't be so flustered she can barely breathe. She shoots back instantly, "I'm not blushing." As everyone finally sinks into the room, the unicorn nudges them all to chill out and keep guard over a young girl's dream. Inside the room, young-looking Kieta shoots a look at the rest of them and asks, like, "Be honest, are you actually enjoying this chaos?" Rest only grins and says, "Now that I think about it." Then he can't help wondering where Kieta vanished to, and it's driving him nuts. Kieta merely choked on his drink. As Rest casually dropped the bomb on everyone, he had a butler named Kieta. He leans in and blurts out, "The man is an irreplaceable treasure in his family." Kieta goes completely silent.